recently gifted 5 acres of land to each of our 2 daughters as our way of jump-starting their journey into home ownership. I have lived on this property for over 41 years. My wife has lived on it for all of her life, as has 3 generations of the Haker family before her. Our grandchildren represent the 6th generation in over 100 years to call this property home. My children desire to live and raise their families on this property. In my opinion, manufactured housing is a great way to start. Not everyone can, wants, or has the need to purchase a $300,000+ home. The home my daughter has chosen is perfect for her needs. My wife and I have lived in manufactured housing for over 41 years, as well as there are several manufactured homes currently in place in all of our area, all of our neighbors. I believe my request is justifiable and consistent with the city's master plan. Except for the placement of my daughter's home, the site would remain basically the same as it's been for decades. I do not foresee any traffic impact and I don't see any effect to public health and or safety. I appreciate your time and sincerely hope you will consider our request. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would your daughter like to speak? If so, come on up to the microphone and state your name.
My name's Amanda Mueller. I also live at 5 Tenopi Lane, and I'm an educator at Berrien ISD, and it's always been a dream of mine to live on my parents' property and live where generations of my family has lived. So I just would really appreciate if y'all and consider my permit.
Thank you very much, Amanda. All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak about this agenda item, the public hearing? Okay, come on up. Is that Mr. Mathis? Come on up, Jamie.
I did have one question while Mr. Mathis is working his way up here. Mr. Benson, is this similar to the cut issue that you mentioned a couple weeks ago too?
It appears to be. In fact, there's something in the staff finding about a platting requirement, which I was going to ask because we got the ordinance. I don't know if this is working, but what is that plat? You have a staff findings, property's not been platted, a waiver of platting requirements currently under review by city staff. Is that based on the conversation we had a month ago with Mrs. Clark?
Yeah, please.
Yes, so this is a similar situation to a previous case that came before the City Council. We did advise the applicants that City Council had directed staff to pursue an update to the Unified Development Code, which would allow a narrow exception for agriculturally zoned properties to not require platting. However, since that has not yet been approved, that's looking at coming to Council the first meeting in August. That's why the staff recommendation right now is still to have the condition for platting. Of course, Council may choose to remove that condition. I think so.
Thank you, Kelsey. Mr. Mathis, the floor is yours.
On this subject, I didn't actually, this is my non-due diligence. Didn't realize this was on this subject for tonight. Anyhow, with that being said, I just want to say that the homeowners around there clearly have opinions that I back up homeowners in general. And for this to be coming up at this moment in time when I do own a property on that lane that is in the ETJ, it's literally carved out, and we can't get trash down a road that's a dirt road. I think that we need to do something first or make it a part of the project. I'm not for it, nor am I against it. But what I am saying is that when you get back in those country lanes and on those roads, you'll see the difficulties that the residents have to deal with. So it sounds horrible, but it's Sikasa, right? So it's what's the will of the good, and that it's just a difficult situation, especially when you don't have an infrastructure already set for your own, for trash itself, for certain houses that are out there that are in the ETJ that are not a part of the city. That's my opinion. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank y'all for listening.
Thank you, Jamie. Anyone else that wants to speak on the public hearing for the CUP to allow manufactured home?
Question for Mr. Mueller, or one of them. Can I get Ms. Mueller to answer a quick question? More than once I've heard that there's going to be 2 sisters gifted this way, and I know it may not be germane to this right this moment, but I'm curious, will it be adjacent? The next piece of land north will be the next one? And this will come at us again a year from now, or?
My other daughter, my younger daughter, and her husband are fixing to build a barn dominium on their property.
Will it be on the south side of this one or the north?
On the south.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
I did have one clarification question, maybe for planning. Is this a private street or is this it's a private road? Okay, thank you.
Anyone else want to speak, or any other questions from council? The time is now 6:42. We're going to close the public hearing for item 5A. Next up, citizens to be heard. This is the only time during the city council meeting that a citizen can address the city council. It is the opportunity for visitors and guests to address the city council on any issue, to include agenda items. All visitors wishing to speak must fill out the sign-in roster prior to the start of the meeting. The city council may not debate any non-agenda issue, nor may any action be taken on any non-agenda issue at this time. However, the city council may present any factual response to items brought up by citizens. Attorney General Opinion JC 0169, limit of 3 minutes each. We will have a timer going up tonight on the big screen. So with all the folks that did sign up and all the emails that were sent in, please be cognizant of the 3 minutes. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body. Remarks may also be addressed to any individual member of the council, so long as the remarks are about matters of local public concern and not disruptive to the meeting or threatening to the member or any attendee. Any person violating this policy may be requested to leave the meeting, but no person may be requested to leave or forced to leave the meeting because of the viewpoint expressed. This meeting is live streamed. Technically, it's being recorded, so it will be uploaded later. It's not necessarily streamed due to the capabilities at this particular facility. If anyone would like to make comments on any matter regarding the city of Cibolo or an agenda item and have this item read at the meeting, please email psimics@cibolotx.gov and vchapman@cibolotx.gov or call 210-566-6111 before 5 p.m. the date of the meeting. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with the folks that are present, and then Peggy can read the emails afterwards. We're going to start with Mr. Steve Cooper. Welcome, Steve.
Good evening. My name is Steve Cooper. I'm your Planning and Zoning Commissioner for District 5. I serve the citizens of Cibolo gladly and with honor. My responsibility as your P&Z Commissioner is to research and evaluate every matter included on the agenda to the fullest of my ability, while taking into account every citizen's input. Let me show you an example of the commitment to my position. This is the notebook that I designed containing all upcoming agenda matters. I print the entire packet at my own expense, and tomorrow's P&Z packet is almost 100 pages. I write notes, take pictures, print maps, and include any other reference materials that are pertinent to an informed decision. I then travel to each property to physically examine the impacts of the change requested. Also included in my notebook are agendas and minutes from past P&Z meetings that are necessary references. This is my copy of the Unified Development Code. These are the codes that dictate our city's standards. These two books are always at my side. I am a man of faith. saved by grace. I daily seek God's will in my life through prayer and supplication. I promote the Blue Campaign, a federal program to assist trafficked people to escape the hell that they are trapped in. I do this through my partnership with convenience stores to display contact information for trafficked people to get help immediately. I'm a businessman overseeing distribution and logistics for the United States' largest frozen burrito manufacturer. I travel throughout the South, Mexico, and Central America. I'm a proud partner, father, grandfather, and friend. I have proudly served my community to ensure that all people are represented and heard. Along with my planning and zoning responsibilities, I've been elected to the Green Valley Special Utility District Board of Directors. I take all of these responsibilities seriously and will continue to impartially execute those responsibilities. I work well with all people without a personal agenda and look forward to continuing my work.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cooper. Okay, next up we have Bob Robertson. Bob, please come on up to the microphone, and if you would, please state your name and your address into the microphone.
Yes, I'm Bob Robertson from 4015 Lower Seguin Road in South Cibolo, and full disclosure, I'm actually in the ETJ of Cibolo, but I watch things closely, what goes on. And I'd like to thank everyone here tonight for your time and the attention. Most of you know who I am. I'm sorry? Thank you. Most of you know who I am, and truthfully, I can call some of you close friends. And we do have discussions, we have disagreements, but at the end of the day, we listen to each other and we come out of this and we move on and we're still friends. And we seek what's better for Cibolo or the area. Now this evening, in all honesty, I'm wearing two hats. And first off, I'm going to wear my Green Valley hat, because like Mr. Foose is going to give you a presentation on water rates and wastewater rates, Green Valley is going to have a Thursday evening meeting this Thursday at 5:30 p.m. at our new headquarters for a presentation to our board, for a deeper presentation than what we already had, and to get a comparison study of our rates as compared to other entities in our area. Now, if I may, I'd like to change the subject a little bit, and I'm going to put on my Cibolo hat. I was very pleased a couple of weeks ago to hear from Peggy that the CIP committee is being brought up again, and she asked me if I would serve, and I'm willing to step up. I feel like I've learned a whole lot more in the community, and I'm ready. The last committee I served on was very fruitful. I met quite a number of nice, intelligent people. However, a lot has changed in our community. My perspective, of course, mainly is South Cibolo, and I can speak truthfully, and I'd say the commercial development in South Cibolo is about to take off if it hasn't already. My only hope is that some of the past committee members are still willing to serve. As you are all aware, good and dedicated committee members are hard to come by. Now that they come here this evening, I have conditioned against speaking because I'm not a Cibolo resident, but I must say that what Cibolo does or does not do does not affect, or does affect, the ETJ and surrounding communities. On the other hand, someone you all know and respect told me, who am I if I don't speak up about this situation? So I'm here. I'm speaking on his behalf. Finally, let me leave you with this final thought. How unable are you as council people to respond or rebut the message that is delivered to you on your planning and zoning committee if your option and reaction is to remove the messenger? Because you obviously have an excellent person on board right now, and I might say it takes forever to bring a planning and zoning person up to speed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Next up, Gary Rose. Please state your name and your address, Gary, into the microphone. Thank you.
Gary Rose, 224 Green Valley Loop. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you discuss agenda item 10B tonight, I hope you take some of my comments into consideration before you vote. I've heard over and over through the years from council members telling us how hard it is to get citizens to serve on committees and commissions, and I also understand the city rules allow a council to vote members off a committee or commission without a reason. If you vote to remove Mr. Cooper tonight from the Planning and Zoning Commission tonight without just cause, who will ever want to serve again? Let me read to you some things I found on the internet when I did a little search for reasons to remove individuals from a committee or commission. I found comments like this. There are some occasions when members should be removed. For example, not attending meetings, are ineffective and don't help with the running of the committee or commission, code of conduct breach, or are disruptive in preventing committee from functioning, or for unsatisfactory performance, which may include non-responsive to electronic communications, online community posts, etc. Well, maybe we should apply that to some of our council people. Wrongdoing or misconduct. Do any of these issues apply to the situation? Are we here? All we have heard so far is Mr. Cooper is incompatible. So I looked up that word and found it defined as, a quote, two people unable to live or work together harmoniously. Really? That's the last word I'd ever come up to describe Mr. Cooper. I found this little other insight might be worth remembering when you are voting on tonight's item. Removing a member from a committee or commission is not a decision that should be taken lightly. The process can be divisive and controversial and may even cause irreparable damage to your association or group. So think carefully and dispassionately about what will happen if and our other options you're trying to remove the committee or commission person. Has the council person that has brought this issue to council talked to the committee member to try and resolve any issues? I'm talking real two-way communications. I don't believe there is an issue with Mr. Cooper's actual performance on a planning and zoning commission. I have no clue what the real issue is, but I hope we hear more tonight other than it's my right to remove Mr. Cooper without cause and he is incompatible. There doesn't seem to be any written city policy procedures to apply to committee commission assignments that I can find. If there is, somebody please point it to me. Some food for thought as I close. When you have alternates on a committee or commission and they have served well, shouldn't they be approached first to fill an open position? You didn't do that a couple of months ago. Thank you very much for your service to Cibolo.
Thank you, Gary. Tina Hayes. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Tina Hayes. I live at 624 Padova. My issue is just a little bit different, but I hope you all listen to what I say. My name is Tina Hayes. I'm a Cibolo resident. The issue I would like to bring up is one I feel is of great importance. It is in our day and age. It affects our community in both positive and negative ways, and this is the social media platform. Some of you may know I am a close friend of Norma Sanchez-Stevens. Over the last few weeks, there have been several people in my neighborhood who have come to me and said, paraphrase, I see people are still speaking negatively of Norma and trying to put her in a bad light on the District 5 page, which I was informed is now the at-large page. Sorry. Okay, thank you. This was news to me because, of course, I was banned soon after I joined the page during the campaign for reasons I still do not know. But I can guarantee I never posted anything rude or inappropriate. Even the mayor, I didn't know who you were at first. Even the mayor responded to an inquiry I posted on my neighborhood page saying if I would request to join again, the admin would let me back on the page. I had requested to rejoin and was denied. So with that being said, I do not see the posts that are on the page, nor do I want to. But my point is that others do, and they matter, and they notice. They are not the ones who reply, they just observe. One person said to me, "It seems like the campaign is still going on." Whatever has been going on the at-large page is negatively affecting the way others in our community view our leadership, including those who have served, and our district itself. And this is not a good look for our community. My goal is to encourage every person, regardless of who you are, if you are on that at-large page, to please consider these words I took from a wonderful book that I love. Let us consider how we may spur one another on toward faith and good works. This is a good rule to follow and should be done with kindness and courtesy, even toward those you don't like or agree with. Otherwise, division spreads like a malignancy, and we have plenty of that in our world already. Serving on city council is not a prestigious position. It is and should be only for those with a heart to serve people within our own community. We have heard so much these days about how people should step up to serve. Yet when a new person comes along with a desire to help and serve, they are ridiculed for so many ridiculous or totally false reasons. I implore you all to allow Norma Sanchez Stevens to serve, to encourage her in her faith, and to do good works. She was elected by her community for a reason. Consider this and help her do what she has been elected to do. We all should be going for this. We all should be doing this for all who serve on city council and for our mayor. Trying to destroy someone's good character is not becoming to the community. Encourage each of them.
Please try to wrap it up. It's been over 3
Okay.
minutes. Sorry.
Please encourage them as long as they are serving. And speaking of character, I am a personal witness to the life and character of Norma Sanchez Stevens. I am not a political person, nor do I want to be. I am a friend. I personally know Norma and her family. Can I finish? And I have for years. They are genuinely wonderful followers of Christ, and they are not people who carry the title of Christian or just say they love to serve. They live it.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it, Tina. Okay, next up is Dennis Fourier. I can never pronounce your last name right. How do I say that, Dennis? Come on up here and tell me how to say your last name, my man.
My real name's Denis Fournier, but we'll not, we don't
Fournier?
Fournier.
Fournier, okay.
Yeah.
Welcome, Dennis.
I guess everybody knows my secret now.
Yep.
I just want to say Dennis Fournier, 209 B Alley. Good evening, council and staff. I just want to say how great it is this evening that we can have this discussion over Mr. Steve Cooper in an open dialogue format. I think it's a great sign of a healthy community when we can all have this discussion, because in past times, these discussions have taken place behind closed doors and in secrecy, and members have been removed from committees and councils and economic development without having the ability to even defend themselves. And I know tonight you guys will make the right decision. I think it's clear and evident that it all speaks for itself, so I'm not going to harp on that. I just want to say how absolutely great it is, and I want to thank all of you for dedicating your time, and Mr. Cooper, you especially, I'd like to thank you. Your track record in this community and far outside of Cibolo is well proven and around, and anybody can see the good man that you are and what this is, and I'll call it what it is. It's a sham, and you deserve to be righted. So I hope you all take that into consideration. It's a little abhorrent to have somebody who's attended 2-3 city council meetings with absolutely no repertoire or investment in the community to try and remove such an upstanding citizen. So thank you guys, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Cooper, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Dennis. All right, next up we're going to go with Eugene Chance. Welcome, Eugene. Please step up to the microphone and state your name and your address, sir.
Good evening, council members, city staff, and residents. My name is Eugene Chance. I live at 508 Turning Stone. I'm also, of course, reside in Cibolo. I'm formally requesting that an ethical investigation be conducted into you, Mr. Mayor, for your actions on social media. On or about 5 July 2023, you used your private account to post on a social media page. Quote, here's the agenda for the next council city meeting. Pay special attention to item 10B, end quote. There are no new posts on your Facebook social mayor page since June 26, 2023. The fact that you didn't post on your mayor page demonstrates that you failed to inform all citizens of Cibolo. As a result of this social media post, you have created a public forum on a private Facebook page that has previously blocked, banned, muted, silenced, and removed members. Additionally, you have violated your previous federal settlement agreement with Civil Action 5-20, which is a signed document between the plaintiffs and the city of Cibolo. The agreement stated that the city, nor any city officials, including their agents, employees, or others acting on their behalf, will not block any citizen from any social media page used for discussing city business. You violated this previous settlement agreement by posting on social media. This is unethical and it's illegal. Severally, I'd like to mention that you have created an atmosphere of animosity, disunity, division, bigotry, and hatred. This is not the kind of... Oh, you want to laugh? You want to laugh? Good. Please continue. Okay, thank you.
Y'all continue, please.
Yeah. This is not the kind of leadership this city needs. Leaders bring out the best in people, not the worst. And all you're doing is bringing out the worst. Look how many people are here for Mr. Cooper. I don't know Mr. Cooper. He's probably a great gentleman. Excuse me, ma'am?
Let him continue. Eugene, you have less than 3 minutes. You got 1 minute left.
I didn't come here for a peanut gallery. I came here to speak my mind, which is my first
You need to
opinion.
direct your comments to city council.
Okay. I'll start again. This is not the kind of leadership this city needs. Leaders bring out the best in those they work with, not the worst. You brought out nothing but embarrassment to this city by disobeying the law and ignoring your previous federal settlement agreement, again, which is unethical and illegal on social media. Thank you.
And if you would, get with our city attorney, Mr. Frank Garza, if you want to file an ethics complaint, by all means. Next up is Jeff McLaughlin. Sure. So you got 6 minutes, Jeff. If you could start the timer for 6.
What was your name?
Everybody good? All right. Jeff McLaughlin, 829 Cardiff. Obviously, I'm here to support Mr. Steve Cooper. For those on the dozens of people watching online tomorrow, this is my attire. Because Mr. Steve Cooper is nothing but class. However, I am wearing cargo shorts because 109 degrees outside. I love you, Steve, but I'm not going to die for you. So we're here today to talk about Mr. Cooper. Now, for those listening on council, for those behind me, they're going to listen. I'm going to lay out facts, and I'll let you know when they're facts, and I'm going to lay out some assessments, and I'll let you know when those come up. So I'm going to take you back through some time. So we got November 2021. Mr. Steve Cooper is elected to the GB Sub Board. I know, I was there. I was happy to celebrate. July of 2022, actually, it'll be a year tomorrow. Mr. Steve Cooper is appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission. At the time, Councilman Allen motioned for it. Councilman Hicks seconded it. 4 of you are still currently on, or let's see, 6, I don't know. Anyways, unanimous, 6-0. Why? Because his character is never into question. Steve Cooper is a man of honor, faith, and community. Let's move forward. So, Steve's been on GB Sud for, 7 months, and then he gets on P&Z, because I know there's going to be some allegations of conflict of interest. I'm about to squash that. So, what was it, July last year you got appointed to vice presidency? Am I correct? Yep, I think so. Joel, you were there. I know you remember. Then we have another election. Steve's still on the board, and because he's such an outstanding human being, he gets elected to be the president of GB Sud, December of last year. So Steve's been in an executive position for roughly a year. So any calls into question to conflict of interest should have been raised a long time ago, but they weren't, because there is none. And legal has checked into that. So everyone's going to talk about how amazing Steve is, because there's no question. I'm going to talk about what's going on out here. So I know for a fact that 3 of you have an outstanding pending ethics violation complaint against you because of your treatment of Mr. Cooper. It is despicable, it is unhonorable, and is not worthy of this hall. 3 of you. Why? Because Steve looks out for people. He looks out for homeowners. He looks out for the citizens, and because his agenda doesn't align with some of you, you want him removed. And don't give me this garbage about incompatibility. Shortly after these complaints are filed, all of a sudden a brand new council person wants to remove him for incompatibility. Give me a break. You've never had a conversation with Steve Cooper. If you had, you wouldn't have made that motion. You can smirk at me all you want, but you know it's true. All right. How much time I got? Oh, I got 3 minutes. I'll stretch. All right. So, because the book ends, and that's what I call you, Joel, Terrence, I know you go by TG, but that's what your friends call you. You cornered him, you threatened him, you tried to intimidate him, you tried to get him to resign. He wouldn't do it. So, Joel, I know for a fact you helped get Norma elected. So you put your new person in there, put her in a terrible position. I hope to God that the person that she elected does great. I want her to succeed. But y'all put her in a terrible position because everything she does on that committee is going to be scrutinized. Why? Because you tried to remove the most outstanding human being on that commission, the one that everyone of the other commissioners look to for guidance and expertise. Why? You saw his binders. He knows what he's doing. Some of those folks show up, have no idea what's even on the agenda. Fortunately, one of those members moved back because he tried to turn Cibolo into Chicago. I don't want to live in Chicago, but did I move there? So, Joel, I'm going to give you some advice. If you want to post and try to endorse someone anonymously, don't take the picture when you're standing right next to me at Shred Day, where Norma showed up for 20 minutes. She got her claim to fame. I worked with you for 4 hours. You got a lot to say about me. I got a lot to say about you. All right. Everybody knows. Steve, unquestionable. I'm now going to implore City Council to look into this, because this was brought to me at the 11th hour, and this is where the assessment kind of comes into play, because I don't have all the facts. It was brought to me a few hours ago. So the city recently just purchased some vehicles. Those vehicles go to a service center to get all the radios, bells, whistles, lights, and all that put in. It's come to my attention that the vendor that does so is Far West. Well, after 5 seconds of internet research, I found out that Cody West is an employee of Far West. And for those of you who don't know, Cody West is the son of Councilman Joel Hicks.
Cody Hicks.
I employ, no, did I say Cody? Did I say something else? Joel Hicks, Cody Hicks, connection, related? I implore you to look into that. Hey, it might be perfectly legal. It might pass all the checks and balances. But it does raise a lot of questions. Because any money going to the city to go to a company that employs a dependent of a sitting council member calls a lot into question. The folks behind me are here because they're irritated. There's a lot going on in city council we're not happy about. There are some of you, I applaud you. Even if I don't agree with you, I know you do your homework, and I know that you make decisions here from your heart. Others, I seriously call into question why you ever signed up. And Terrence, if I could ever get you to look up when someone's talking, that would be amazing. God bless you.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, next up is Teresa Kelly. Teresa Kelly. Yeah. Welcome, Teresa. When you get to the microphone, please.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
Factually on that, the ethics complaint. The ethics complaint that was filed has been dismissed by an outside attorney that was hired by council. We can't talk about it today because it wasn't done in time for the agenda, so wanted to get that out there.
Is that one of 3 or is it
Just one.
Thanks, DG. Okay, go ahead, start the clock, please, for Teresa Kelly, and if you could please state your name and your address. Thank you.
I'm Teresa Kelly, and I'm on Brush Trail Bend in the Cibolo 5 district. So I've never been to one of these meetings before, but I myself, as some of the other people mentioned, a lot of the social media that I've been seeing, even during the election, I was trying to post things on the at-large page, and each day that I did, I'd get sent a comment that I'm going to be blocked. So all because I just voted for a candidate. Didn't say anything, just shared that I wanted to vote for them. So I think that just what everybody else said, that is a little bit ridiculous. I did want to come out and have my voice be heard. We as residents, we all need to keep our behaviors in check and try to be respectful to each other, even if you don't agree with other people, unlike some of the things that's even going on tonight in here that I'm seeing. I've seen so many degrading and rude social media comments during the election that honestly I thought it was still the election right now. And I really was hoping and praying that a lot of this would stop, but obviously it hasn't. I think that when people are new, they should be given an opportunity to serve and not be degraded from the very beginning. So fast forward to the summer 23 here. There's a lot of rumors on Facebook trying to misrepresent council persons. I've seen it with multiple people. I don't even know a lot of you, but I've seen it, and I just think it's absolutely absurd. We all need to put our differences aside, especially with new city councilwoman, Norma, a fair chance to serve just as other council elected officials have. The same opportunity that Mayor Allen was given when he was elected to councilman without any previous experience. So remember that council is within their right to appoint or remove anyone. So that's something we need to remember, that it's not illegal, it's not improper, you may not agree with it, but it could transpire. Our mayor has had the opportunity to serve our district, and as a resident of District 5, I ask that Norma be given the same opportunity. We need to resolve all this division and bring the city together, because the social media is tearing everybody apart. It's absolutely ridiculous, this at-large page. I don't know who runs it, but whoever it is, they probably need to pass it off to somebody else, because they're definitely not doing a very good job of taking care of people that are just trying to, that didn't do anything or put anything on there. So that's all. I just wanted to have my voice be heard, and thank you guys very much. Oops.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Next up is Bob Fishback. Welcome, Bob. Please state your name and your address, please.
Bob Fishback, 140 Dewfall Trail. Good evening, Mayor Allen, council members. I'd like to address a concern regarding decorum during the June 27th hearing of the residents portion of the city council meeting, and unfortunately tonight as well. In order to provide a little context where I'm coming from, I'm retired Air Force, I'm retired civil servant, I'm very active in my church, and I'm currently in a 5-year formation program to become a deacon. Respect and dignity are not only incredibly important, they are critical in all aspects of society. There are many contentious issues facing our community, and I also am very saddened by the divide and pray that the community can overcome them. Regardless of the issue, we must all strive to conduct ourselves in a respectful and dignified manner. The lack of decorum I witnessed during the 27th council meeting, it cannot be overlooked, ignored, and most of all tolerated. So you, Mayor, you kind of give the ground rules of this portion of, about the decorum and the rules of engagement, which I absolutely support. At the last council meeting, however, a citizen stood up and publicly attacked a resident and several council members, calling them names and threatening political fallout. To my utter dismay, Mayor Allen, you sat quietly and allowed this behavior. As citizens, we look to you for leadership to ensure everyone is treated with respect and dignity, and personal attacks should not be allowed. I understand emotions are running very high. Lord knows I've experienced it in my personal life as well. But we must find a way to air our differences in a respectful manner and work together to find common ground, for the benefit of our city. It is up to you to ensure this happens. Please understand, this is not a criticism. This is actually an appeal. My entire family voted for you, and we hope that your leadership will take Cibolo to the next level. I'm simply asking you to ensure that everyone is respected in this forum. Council members, I urge you to call a point of order if you see a fellow council member being attacked. You may not agree with them, but you should always support them, because we're supposed to be unified in the effort of growing this wonderful city. So this is pretty much where I come from, and my family loves the city, and we are committed to working with you and the residents to overcome whatever issues are raised. Thank you very much for your time, and God bless.
Thank you, Bob. Next up is Genevieve Higdon. Okay.
I'm still Jeff McLaughlin at 829 Cardiff. Heard a lot of things mentioned about social media. I'm not going to address that individual directly because my comments are towards y'all, but come on, there's two groups. They both do the same thing. Give me a break. Mr. Fishback, I honestly hope nothing but the best for your wife. I have no doubt you have true intentions, honestly. But there is a difference between attacking and being critical. It is 100% within my right, as I'm here for the second time, to be very critical of all of you. You know, some of you may know me as ungodly or the producer of a hit TikTok series, HOA Chronicles. Some of you may even know me as an aspiring artist on driveways. And for those of you, if I did not draw art in your driveway and you would like me to, I'd be happy to book an appointment. I need a lot of practice. But you know, it's just becoming so evident and so clear by certain members of this body that you either get along and go with the flow or you're out. That's not a representative form of democracy. And to the point that someone brought up, you know, it is well within someone's right to remove someone from P&Z or any commission for any reason. 100% correct. You know, some statements are made that the commission serves at the pleasure of council. Okay, sure. Y'all serve at the pleasure of us. So if we want our P&Z commissioner to stay put because they represent the best interests of its citizens, they should be allowed to stay. I've heard a couple people comment that sounds like the election's still ongoing. For the record, my campaign is done. But you know what's amazing? I'm a citizen and I still get to come up here and be critical of every decision you make, but also I look forward to the opportunity to applaud you on a decision you make. Take your self-interest out and do what's best for the rest of us, because it is so evident of the self-serving, and it's garbage. It's absolutely garbage. If you want to serve yourself, resign. I'll leave the last 47 seconds if anybody wants to resign. Yep, it's going to be a long, awkward pause. All right, I'll wrap up. For those of you who've been critical of me, for those of you who have said ungodly things about me, I still love you. I still care about you as people, and I still pray for you every day. God bless y'all.
Thank you, Jeff. And then also, Bob, I just wanted to thank you very much for your support, and then also just to kind of give you some commentary about what you spoke on as far as the rules of our citizens to be heard. For years and years, we actually had a policy that you couldn't speak about any council members individually. However, we did end up in a lawsuit with a group of citizens, and part of that settlement for that lawsuit was to change these rules. And so that's the reason why you're hearing what you're hearing today. Just so you know, because it used to be exactly the way you asked for. So unfortunately, we had to go with the settlement that we agreed to. And as far as our rules, as they're stated today, we can't have anybody that's threatening a member on this council or any attendees in the audience. So that is the rules that we enforce. And so, but thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Okay.
I just wanted to add that also as residents come up and speak, that the things spoken on should not be disruptive to the meeting as well. Thank you.
Next up is, looks like Jamie Mathis. You want to come up and speak again? It looks like Liz is going to give you her time. Jamie's still here? There he is. So load up 6 minutes, please, for Jamie.
You got it. So first and foremost, Miss Peggy.
Mayor, it's 3 minutes. He already spoke
awesome
3.
Secretary for
His wife Liz is going to give her 3 minutes to Jamie.
But he already spoke.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Never mind. Never mind. Sorry.
Proceed.
You've been an awesome secretary for the city of Cibolo for I don't know how many years. Thank you. Thank you. All city staff, you guys deserve to be applauded at all times. We get lost in this drama, right? And we should not get lost in this drama. It's unfortunate that it happens, so I'm not going to attack any one individual or go after anybody or go after council or anything like that. I'm going to say that you guys volunteer your time. Time, in my opinion, is the most valuable commodity that we have. And you guys just absolutely pour that out for the city of Cibolo. We don't always agree. I've worked with every one of you on this council in different forms or capacities or different fashions. Well, almost everyone. Norma's brand new, but anyhow, I've worked with you guys and we've talked through things. I understand your time is valuable, and I understand it's the most valuable even maybe tonight. So I get that. I have no disrespect amongst you guys whatsoever. You guys are one of the most valuable things this city has. We just may not agree on everything. I don't agree on removing somebody that wants to voluntarily not get paid to do a job of P&Z. I completely disagree with that. You know, when I first came to council, I remember that council was removing Stosh Boyle from the EDC when I first started to pay attention, who was our previous mayor, and they did it behind closed doors. I also remember council removing a dear friend of mine recently behind closed doors. So I'm very happy that we're having this discussion out in the open, right? So if you want to remove somebody, you have that right per the guidelines. And you know that you do, and that's cool. But just know that just because you don't agree with one issue or another doesn't mean that you need to replace that person. We got to find a common ground. We got to work together. Or we're going to continue to look like schmucks to all the cities around us. If we cannot figure this out and get along, we're going to look like the schmucks on the block. That's my opinion. I really love Cibolo. I want to continue to invest in Cibolo. But if Cibolo cannot get this drama out of its orifice, I'm out. I've met and spoke with each and every one of you individually, except for Mahoney, I believe. But I've met and spoke with each and every one of you individually. I know your hearts are there. I know your minds are right. I know that you're trying to look up for Cibolo. But dang it, can we just freaking get along for a moment and grow Cibolo? And let's just change our path. But unfortunately, I think it's going to take you guys having some workshops and getting together and actually coming Like, this argument stuff this is bull crap. I mean, I understand where everybody's at. I understand everybody's got their own opinion, but it's got to stop somewhere. I don't know who's going to come in and make it and stop it. This is drama bullshit. My name is Jamie Mathis. I'm a resident of Cibolo and other places, but thank you all for your time. I know your time is valuable. I do appreciate your time. From my family to yours, we do appreciate all this heartache that you guys have to deal with. All right? So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamie. Sherry McDaniel.
Hello, I'm Sherry McDaniel, 256 Gravel Grave. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of Mr. Steve Cooper. Steve Cooper has served on P&Z as the representative for District 5 for a year now. He served with honesty and integrity. Yes, there were occasions when his vote was different from the others. He votes for what he truly thinks will be in the best interest of our city, and not just because it's the way that everybody else is voting. This is because he always does his research and asks the right questions before voting on any agenda items. I met Steve a few months ago at a city council meeting while I was running for city council. He told me that he was the president of the GV Water Board. He invited me to come to their upcoming board meeting so that I can learn more and better understand the inner workings of the utility company that provides the water and many other services to much of Cibolo. I did attend that meeting and watched him conduct their board meeting with great leadership and professionalism. I got to know Steve better at the City of Cibolo Sewer Bash in the spring. We were both on the same team of volunteers that spent the morning picking up trash along Wiedner Road. This is the kind of man that Steve Cooper is, a man who volunteers his spare time to give back to our community. This is why I don't understand why certain council people want to remove somebody from their own district that has been nothing but a positive influence and an asset to our community. Saying that somebody is incompatible does not justify a reason. Have they ever tried talking to Mr. Cooper directly to address whatever differences that they may have with him? Many people are incompatible in some way or another with each other. You just need to put your personal feelings and opinions behind you and work out your differences for what is in the best interest for the future of our city. In closing, after hearing the concerns of not only District 5 residents, but also other residents of Cibolo as well, I can only hope that the council will do the right thing and allow Steve Cooper to remain on the P&Z board so that he can continue to serve our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Next up is James Hendricks. Looks like you had yielded some time to Jeff, but he didn't need it. Looks like Genevieve.
I think we've all had enough of Jeff for the evening, so. My name is James Hendricks. I live at 332 Blaze Moon in Cibolo. I'm on the GVSUD board, and so I'll put on that hat very briefly. Steve Cooper is the president of the GVSUD board, and I am the vice president. As a lot of people know, the GVSUD board was divisive. There was a rift. There was almost knives being pulled at meetings between various council members. And that, I believe, is part of the reason why I was elected onto the board. And I'm glad Mr. Cooper was also elected onto the board because he has been the ultimate peacekeeper. He has met both sides, people that obviously didn't want him in that seat to people that definitely wanted him to be the president of the board. He has done nothing but good things for GVSUD. We have had a 180-degree turnaround in the last 18 months, and I don't think anybody can really argue about that. The biggest complaint that we have is a building that's expensive. It was done before us, and rate increases. But you're going to see rate increases everywhere, all over Texas. That's really out of our hands. Mr. Cooper has been the driving force, and we had a meeting this morning. And he has just always been the voice of wisdom. He is very eloquent with his words and his vocabulary. Fortunately, I understand about 80% of the words that come out of his mouth, but I can make the other 20% out of context. So he is a wordsmith. He has done nothing but good things for the city. Please, 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 when you think about this vote, take that into consideration. There's also some other things to take into consideration. There was a person who spoke a little bit earlier about a Facebook page. What he neglected to mention is that he is admin on another Facebook page that routinely kicks you off, will mute you, or ban you if you speak out anything that doesn't meet his defined political views. And that all revolved about another council member who is sitting right now. If you said anything disparaging, if you even asked a challenging question, you were immediately removed from that board. And that is why this other board became so popular, because you could vent. Also, there is a serious ethics violation. I brought this up to Ms. Norma Stevens, sorry, apologize for that. I brought this up to her. She is exclusively posting on this page, which is censoring voting base, which is flat out illegal. You cannot directly post to a page that is censoring its constituents. Now, I went and I just looked on my Facebook, and they have deleted several of her posts in the last couple weeks, back to the point that I notified her of this. But she's also blocking people on social media so they cannot directly contact her, which is also an ethics issue. She did reply to me, and she said that she's going to strive to make this better. But I know several people that have still been blocked and cannot communicate with Ms. Stevens, and they're given the email. But if she's letting half of the population voting base talk to her directly through social media or through this group page, and she's not letting the other half of the voting base, she needs to stop. And even though the ethics violation came back nothing, there were still 3 council members that verbally threatened Mr. Cooper and told him that he needed to resign from P&Z. That should be taken into account as if those council members can even vote in this coming up vote. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, Mr. Hendricks. I'd also like to address something factual about that. I do have a political page, Norma for Cibolo. That's where I exclusively post information, only city information, not city business, city information, where you can get when your trash is going to get picked up, where you can volunteer for the senior center, any happenings on roads to the city. I do not exclusively just post on center. I also posted in other pages like Shirts for Cibolo 1. I'm pretty sure there are people that are banned or censored on that for whatever reason, according to the admins on that page. But I'm not in violation in that because that is not my page. Cibolo, the small Cibolo District 5 is not my page. I was just sharing information there as I have other pages. I have cleared this with our attorney, and there's no one censored on my Norma for Cibolo page, and I'm just being transparent with all of that information. Again, it's just information. As far as communication goes, I went ahead and disclosed that I would like that communication to be made via email. That is the platform the city has given me for communication with residents. I do not wish to have conversations over social media or Facebook because things like that cannot be conveyed appropriately. So I had made that stance. I also made that post. I have not posted information on that Cibolo for District 5 in a while. You probably saw a couple of weeks, for the reason that I wanted to go ahead and cover my legal basis. And I'm not in an ethics violation in this, nor I wish to be. And that is the reason why I posted for us to conduct communication via my city email. And I've been criticized for that, but that is a platform the city has given me, and I will continue to use that platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Norma. Next up is Kara Latimer. Come on down.
Hello, my name is Kara Latimer, and I'm here to talk about a dog. I really want to actually remind you all that we had that $50,000 money spent to look at our animal control. And I want to invite and encourage additional conversation, more conversation about the animal shelter, and specifically about if we cannot have a $7 million building, let's be intentional and deliberate in funding incremental improvement change to ensure vetting so that these animals can be given to fosters or to rescues. So I am neither an attorney, nor am I going to claim that anybody's doing anything wrong, but I do want you to know that I did ask our city attorney if there could potentially be a conflict of interest because of the lawsuit between GVSUD and some comments made and GVSUD emails shared by Mr. Cooper. And in that document that I received back from the city attorney, it says a bunch of stuff, and accordingly, the courts of the Office of the Attorney General have generally ruled that a person may not hold two public offices where the inherent policy objectives between the two offices are likely to conflict in certain areas. Then he goes on to clarify that because if he was a council member, that would be different, or if our actual planning and zoning board was a final authority, it would potentially be an issue. And then he says, it is my recommendation that this opinion be shared with the mayor and council per the city code. There is no other action to be taken unless a majority of the city council voted to overrule the opinion of it not being a conflict, in which case the city council shall proceed with a fact-finding hearing. So I think that's kind of what has been taking place, and I wish you guys the best, but please, open dialogue about the animal control shelter, and ensure, please, that if we do not get to move forward with a $7 million building, we are moving forward with some type of measurable, incremental, and deliberate change for these animals. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. Go ahead, Joel.
Factual information for you, Ms. Latimer. We had a CIP subcommittee prior to this meeting, and that was brought up that we're putting before possibly a bond for the citizens to vote on an animal shelter. But I did bring up to Mr. Reed that we need to start actively looking at finding foster and working with rescues to get the dogs in and get them out. So
It's a personnel issue for sure, having somebody that's qualified to determine which shelter or which rescue they should go to, for sure.
Okay, thank you, Kara, and thank you, Joel. And, just to reiterate what Joel said, we are going to put the idea to build a new animal shelter on the ballot in November 24. We'd like to do it sooner, but we just don't have an election going on this year. And so it's an off year. And so that's the reason why we got to wait so long. But because we want the whole city to have a chance to come vote. But Katie?
Yeah, y'all start convincing all your neighbors that $7 and $8 million is okay to vote for in a bond. We're going to need that full year to convince some people. I did want to I know it's on the agenda in a little bit, but the Animal Services Manager, Mr. Reed, I believe we did hire someone. I think we got that update last meeting, but I can't recall.
Yes, we did hire a new animal services manager, and I did provide that in my last update to council.
So with that, the issues of fostering and rescuing are going to be addressed. I don't know if y'all saw the social media post. If you don't follow Cibolo Animal Services or Cibolo Police Department, please do. But one of the animal control officers actually identified that one of the animals that they picked up that was wandering around had special abilities, and that dog, Bandit, what was its name? Bandit. He actually has been deployed as a police dog in another state. So they are actively looking at the animals that they spend time with. They're looking to see their temperaments. I know that they've worked with veteran service animals in the past. I was actually there when a veteran came and picked up their animal and got to witness that whole situation, so it's really great. The animal shelter is always in need of volunteers. I always plug that in. So please, you can sign up to volunteer on the website. It's a 30-minute training, super easy, but they always need people to walk animals and to foster them.
Thank you, Katie. Next up, Rance McDaniel. Come on down. Welcome, Rance.
Hello. So, Rance McDaniel, 256 Gravel Gray.
Do you mind, Rance? The microphone, I'm
yeah.
sorry. Our thing is terrible. Thank you.
So, this is my first time actually attending a council meeting in person, so this has been a real treat because this is been different. Also, it's kind of disappointing, and that's kind of what prompted me to come here tonight, is what I saw last council meeting and kind of some of the actions that took place. I thought those weren't really becoming of the council. And then when I saw agenda item 10B, I didn't really understand, okay, what kind of prompted this? I think it's wrong, and I'm just going to give you a few reasons that I feel for that assessment. Tonight's the first night that I met Steve Cooper. Seems like a good guy. Don't have anything. He didn't slap me or anything the minute I met him, which was always good because some people do. But you know, a lot of people that I know and respect have spoke very highly of him. I haven't heard anyone say anything bad. So I don't really understand why we've burned through, an hour and a half of this back and forth, and why our new D5 councilwoman has decided to make this her inaugural issue. I don't quite understand. So we must be doing pretty good in Cibolo for this to be the priority. So the only thing I'm going to say on this is, I understand it's definitely council's right to remove and put people on these commissions at their pleasure, but what I would say is it would really help the voters out if we had very clear, delineated reasons conveyed to us, because what happens is everyone fills in the blanks at that point, and you can definitely see where a bunch of that's been done. So all I would ask is some very clear communication. I don't know if it's something specifically in Steve's voting record that's been the challenge. I don't know if Steve just leaves the toilet seat up when he comes here. I don't know. And none of us do know. So that's what I would ask. So either let's move past this and take this trivial item off the agenda, because quite frankly, this has been an entire wait. I don't know what you guys make an hour. I know you're not making anything sitting here. But your time does have value, and again, we're burning the city's time. That, and anyone watching at home, I'll tell you, this probably doesn't look great, because I don't think we've touched any real city business tonight, right? So take this off the agenda and let's move forward. And if there is a pressing reason why he needs to be removed, let's get it out in the open and have that conversation to where the voters get to hear that. We deserve that as voters. Mr. Cooper definitely does. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Next up is Evan. I can't read the last name very good. Can you help me, Katie? How do you say it? Just tell us in the microphone, please.
Evan Slattis at 717 Silver Fox in Cibolo as a citizen.
Thanks,
Y'all
Evan.
can call me hippie. My remarks are directed at you, Norma. I apologize. I don't want to mispronounce your last name. You have the hyphen, so I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything. Everybody here is talking about Mr. Cooper. No disrespect to you, Mr. Cooper. Don't care about you really one way or the other. To understand what the vitriol is all about, look at this logically, right? There are a lot of people here who don't want large-scale developments in this city. The schools, as I understand from one of the citizens here, is overcrowded. I homeschool my child, so I would know for that reason. We don't want the extra traffic because for sure the roads are a mess right now and they're not getting fixed anytime soon. And these developers want to come in and build all this stuff out, and I just left San Marcos, where I previously was for the last decade or so, to escape all that nonsense. I was tired of it. So we come here to a nice sleepy town, and next thing I know, right across the street from where I live, on 1103, somebody's trying to jam an apartment building down our throats and screw everything up even worse than it already is, right? That man voted against it on P&Z. So as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of other residents are concerned, just looking at that one fact, that's the dude that should be on the council. Now, you come in and got elected, and I didn't vote for nobody during that thing because I don't really care who sits on the city council. All I care about is that the city is taken care of. I don't want to have to worry about whether or not the roads are being fixed or not. I want to know they're being fixed and that y'all are taking care of any one of these problems, right? So when you make the decision to suddenly remove somebody who is upholding what we want as citizens to do this with no other reason except for incompatible, that leaves a lot of us to start to wonder and start to fill in blanks, which may not be very reflect well upon you, which is not fair, but that's politics, right? And you volunteered for this job. That's all there is to it, right? So you may not like it, and I totally get it, right? But you need to understand how you appear when you make these, try to make these decisions, especially when you stepped in and you essentially have no cachet with the rest of us proving that you're going to stand against these developers coming into town. You see what I'm saying? So you voted, you chose to run for that seat and are expected to represent us. None of us want these large-scale developments or anything else. What we want are roads fixed or the animal services to be taken care of, et cetera, and so on. You need to prove that you're going to do that first before you start taking people out, right, that are doing the job that we expect that these people do. Do you see what the problem is? It's all a matter of perception. You may be the greatest council member we've ever had, but the way things are looking is not that good. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Okay, next up we've got a duo of Kelsey and Ryan Popham. Not sure who's planning to speak or both, but come on up. Welcome, Popham family. How you doing?
Oh, you know, it could be better. Hi, guys. You know, I never was one to care about what happened in local government. I've said that every time I've come up here. And to be honest, I have not cared until I was forced to pay attention for my family. And now that I am paying attention, it's very disheartening to see some elected officials making decisions that serve self-interest and not the interests of the people who elected them. I'm here because I would like to speak on Mr. Steve Cooper's behalf. I don't agree with the removal of Mr. Cooper from the Planning and Zoning Board. The reasons stated for the removal are not valid reasons. I first met Mr. Cooper at a P&Z meeting when we were forced to apply for a conditional use permit to be let back into our home, a permit that I still stand firm on today that we did not need. He was one of the friendliest persons to talk with at the meeting, and he had a lot of insight and knowledge of everything going on. He spoke honestly and truthfully of the facts in a respectful manner. At no point since I met Mr. Cooper did I ever think he was incompetent and didn't know how to do his job, a job he volunteers his time to do. Mr. Cooper even wrote a letter in our favor at the council meeting, which he was under no obligation to do, but felt passionately about helping us get back into our home once he learned everything the city had put us through. Someone who cares and listens to others like Mr. Cooper so clearly does deserves to be a part of the change that desperately needs to happen within the city. So I'm asking council to please vote no on his removal. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thanks, Ryan. All right, our last in-person speaker tonight is Mr. Todd West. Welcome, Todd.
If you're offended, I'd step out now. Good evening. My name is Todd West. I live at 117 Brush Trail Lane, and I'm here to speak about Mr. Cooper tonight. First off, I want to say good evening, Mayor and City Council and Mr. Cooper. I've never met you before, but I wore the shirt for you. You represented District 5 really well, and so I decided to take time away from my family and come out and support you. And as our elected officials, it's obvious what your people want, right? All right, so let's keep them on there. First off, I want to speak to the unjust motion to remove Mr. Steve Cooper from the P&Z committee. Mr. Steve Cooper, as we've been told over and over, has volunteered and been serving on the Planning and Zoning Committee since July 13, 2022. He's represented District 5 well during this time and has had no issues to warrant his removal. District 5 City Council representative purportedly told Mr. Cooper and others that she was replacing him due to the fact that he did not vote for her, and that made them incompatible. If Mr. Cooper is removed from the P&Z, this has the appearance of influence with access to the district representative as dependent on your vote or your monetary contribution to her campaign. Leveraging your public position for private gain, not just monetary, if not explicitly illegal, is ethically dubious. The last time I spoke out here was against the unjust removal of a combat veteran, Mr. John Frias, from the same committee. Mr. Benson attempted to provide a clever justification for his removal, and Mr. Hicks abstained due to his personal conflict with Mr. Frias. If this past practice dictates what is needed to remove someone from volunteering their time to the city of choice, is it fair to assume that the District 5 representative, Ms. Norma, will abstain, and any vote aye will provide a just explanation as to why they are in favor of this removal? I also caution you on what message this will send to all residents about giving up their precious time with loved ones, like our second speaker, that Ms. Peggy asked to get on the CIP committee. Who did you vote for, sir?
Can't.
There you go. So, I don't know if he'll get on either. So, I ask that this motion to remove Mr. Cooper from the B&Z committee be denied, and all city council representatives be reminded of the responsibility to be unbiased when making this decision. It costs nothing to be a decent human being. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Right, Mr. Hicks? Finally, Facebook. I teach my kids, if you're offended, turn it off. Mr. Eugene banned me for posting a shred picture. And I assure you, sir, you want to take off your glasses because I laugh at you stepping up to this female disabled person? Take off your glasses and step to me. I'll be your Huckleberry. I guess I got 9 seconds left, so. Yeah, you're right, sir. When you stepped up to this female,
Just address council.
wrong. Okay, that's all I have. Please vote unbiasedly. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
Something a factual matter, Mr. West, I never said the word vote, Mr. Cooper. If you deduce that, that was erroneous. I maybe said the word support, but never said the word vote, okay? So, no, I'm addressing, thank you for my time. So, in that, you could have voted for Sherry, you could have voted for Mr. Joe Potts. I really don't know who you voted for. Okay, so the word vote was never used. Thank you.
That was not our conversation, and I have witnesses to attest. Just saying. If you want to call me out, I will certainly.
Okay, yeah, let's save it for after. All right, next we're gonna.
Clarification on what she just said.
Okay, let's
This is point of order, please.
let's save our remarks for after, if you don't mind. So, Ms. Peggy Simmons, I know you have 26 emails to read, so please feel free to distribute a few of those over here to Katie and I. We'd be happy to help you.
Okay, the first, is it on?
We might need to switch you out with that one.
Hello, hello.
Mr. Garza, just make sure it's not pointed toward her microphone.
Okay, the first one is from Anna. Yes. The first one is from Anna Liana James. I would like to share my concern about the recent development with the P&Z committee. Ms. Norma Sanchez Stevens has motioned to remove Mr. Steve Cooper from P&Z. I would like to know for what reason and with what cause. As far as I can say, Mr. Steve Cooper has been doing a good job at P&Z. The residents of Cibolo District 5 want him to. Incompatibility has been cited as a reason by Ms. Sanchez Stevens, and I would like Ms. Sanchez Stevens to know that I actually want healthy dissent on council. It's called democracy, and that I am less than happy with and how she has been carrying herself as our District 5 representative so far. On the same note, I would also like to ask the entire council about the last meeting. Why did you allow some random person that was suggested by Ms. Sanchez Stevens to be on P&Z board seemingly without proper vetting when other citizens have showed interest and inquired about positions for a while? Strictly from my own observation, it's obvious to me that sometimes something shady is going on here and I don't like what I see. Do better, please. The next one is from Dennis Quinn. My name is Dennis Quinn, and I live at 125 Blaze Moon in District 5. I'm emailing to relay my opinion about the agenda items slated for the 7-11 City Council meeting to remove Steve Cooper from the Planning and Zoning Committee. The intention of this email is to make it known that the meeting, I am an adamant opposed to this motion. I work nights and cannot attend the meeting in person, or else I would sign up to speak. I've been very pleased with Mr. Cooper's service, and I see no reason to remove him from his position. My next email will be to my city council representative to understand her reasoning for submitting the motion to remove Mr. Cooper, and if she provides a satisfactory response, I will send a follow-up email for you to rescind my request to be heard. I've reached out to Ms. Sanchez-Stevens. I received a response that stated that she was within her right to do so and forwarded me the line in the city charter stating as much. When I asked for clarification as why she felt compelled to do so, I received the same response to my previous statement, as well as the declaration Mr. Cooper's removal was a foregone conclusion. No further elaboration from Ms. Sanchez-Stevens, despite several requests via multiple platforms. Unsatisfied with her incomplete response, I reached out to each of the council members as well as the mayor. I'm happy to say I heard back from several council members and asked for clarification for the members who indicated they supported Mr. Cooper's removal. I was met with the same radio silence. Without explanation whatsoever, I'm left to draw my own conclusion regarding the topic. It appears the members supporting this motion are doing so only for political purposes, not for the betterment of Cibolo and its residents. A simple explanation may have cleared this up, but it seems to be a taboo subject for some. Ms. Sanchez-Stevens admirably worked very hard to campaign to earn her seat. My only wish is that she would carry that same energy while responding to questions from her constituents. The apparent lack of transparency from her and other council members is a cause for concern. The next one is from Sarah Ross. I'll spell her last name, Rostowfske. She resides in Saratoga, District 5. Wanted to express my full support for Mr. Cooper to remain on the Planning and Zoning Commission. The current attempt to have him removed is not in the best interest of our district. The next one is from Joanna Shaw. Hello, I'm writing to express my support for Steve Cooper and oppose his removal from the Planning and Zoning Commission. He's an astute advocate and an active voice for the majority of Cibolo residents. My husband and I both support him and will attend the next meeting to oppose the special interests that would seek to stack the council with people who do not represent the best future for our city. Thank you for your attention. The next one is from Luis Gonzalez. Good evening, Mayor, Allen, City Council. I live at 128 Corsica Drive, District 5. Mayor Allen, you read a statement at each council meeting before citizens to be heard. Specifically, all remarks should be directed at the council but may not be directed at individual council members if they pertain to matters of local public concern and do not disrupt the meeting or propose threats to any council member or attendee. Any person who violates this policy may be asked to leave the meeting. During the last last meeting, an individual referred to Councilman Hicks, Councilman Benson as bookends, and further threatened him, implying consequences for their re-election campaigns. Additionally, this individual implicated me and labeled me as a henchman. It is worth clarifying that a henchman is someone loyal to an organization involved in criminal activities. I want to emphasize that I have a clean criminal record and continue to hold an active Department of Defense top secret security clearance. I suppose this individual is correct in a way that I'm extremely loyal, but loyal to my country. I served my country for 30 years as an active duty soldier, spending 17 years overseas, including 28 months during combat operations. I served in Iraq twice, Saudi Arabia, Haiti, Cuba, Kosovo, Macedonia, and various other hotspots across the globe. In 2004, I was awarded 2 Bronze Star Medals for heroism during a single operation in Iraq. So I suppose one could indeed call me a henchman, as my duty was loyal to my country. However, my disappointment is not aimed at the ignorance of my accuser. It lies with you, Mayor Allen, and the council for allowing this individual to make a mockery of City Council. This is the people's house, and the people are watching your action. Mayor Allen, you should have intervened and prevented this individual from insulting council members and your constituents. Council members are to blame too, because they should have called for point of order. My only request to the mayor and city council is to enforce the standards you have sworn to uphold. Do not allow the city council to become a circus. Instead, lead by example, restore order in the people's house.
Peggy, I'll go ahead and respond to that. My commentary is similar to Mr. Fishback in that we used to have a very strict citizens to be heard policy that did not allow for any person or citizen to come and speak or to address a council member directly by name. However, as stated earlier, that policy was revised as a result of a settlement. And so therefore, we're simply following the settlement that was agreed to. And so that's the reason why the rules were changed. It's not necessarily, because we arbitrarily decided to change it. And so, but as far as, the word disruptive, that is a subjective term. And so it's hard to define, what's disruptive and what isn't. So, until that can be, clearly defined, But as far as threatening goes, if somebody were to threaten somebody physically or, something like that, then absolutely, that person would be requested to leave. Thank you.
The next one is from Daniel Kerr. I will be unable to attend the meeting at 7-Eleven and wanted this read into the statement. Surrounding the removal of Mr. Cooper, proposed removal from the P&Z Commission. Dear City Council, and specifically Councilwoman Sanchez Stevens, I wholeheartedly disagree with the removal of Mr. Cooper from the P&Z Commission. The unchecked growth of this city is causing a massive increase in crime. Mr. Cooper has been a voice of reason for the city, and there's no justified reason for his removal from council. He has done his job admirably and is a benefit to the citizens of Cibolo. I implore the council to reject this political motivated action and vote to reject the removal of Mr. Cooper from the P&Z Commission. The next one is from Gail Quinn. My name is Gail Quinn, reside at 552 Pearl Chase, District 5. I'm emailing in regarding to the agenda item slated for 7-Eleven City Council meeting to remove Mr. Steve Cooper as the District 5 representative from the Planning and Zoning Committee. I would like it to be known that I strongly oppose this motion. I have been very pleased with Mr. Cooper's service and feel that he has done a very good job of representing the wishes of the members of District 5. I'm extremely disappointed that a motion is being made to remove him from this position and hope that you will reconsider. The next one is Charlie McLennan. He supports not removing Mr. Cooper from District 5 Planning and Zoning Committee without some due process. This seems to be an agenda by District 5 Council-elect to further a hidden agenda to install someone else in the position in order to vote in adding apartment complexes in Cibolo. I personally don't care for apartment complexes that increases in traffic to our minimal and already congested roadways. Also comes the increase in fire and police calls for service to those complexes, as well as an increase in our schools, student numbers, and no tax contributions to the school district. The next one is from Era Allen, and she states, I hope you are all well. It has come to my attention that you want to remove Steve Cooper from the P&Z because this is a normal process when one takes office. Can you please provide examples where this has happened in Cibolo with a new council person has taken office? It has also been brought to my attention that you sent a generic email to multiple constituents. Is this true? Cut and paste, replace the name. Your email text. Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Question. Thank you for your email, and I appreciate the time taken. It is not uncommon that when a council member is changed, that their commission may change. Our charter dictates that appointees on boards and commissions serve at the pleasure of council and removed at the discretion of council. Section 8.01.2. I mention only to clarify that this is not an isolated or uncommon matter. Respectfully, Norma Sanchez Stevens. She also states, please explain your reasonings. Steve also said you told him at the P&Z meeting that you remove him due to conflict of interest, the conflict being that he voted for Jeff in the special election. Is this true? What has Steve done to show that he has a conflict of interest? Have you met Steve outside the correspondence previous mentioned? You ran your campaign on unity. Where is the unity currently being implemented? What has Stephen done to you personally? You proclaim to be a woman of God, faith, family, and community. How are you engaging with your 6K constituents? So how many questions, right? So many questions, right? This is what you signed up for, right or wrong. I will patiently await your response. Thank you. The next one is from Crystal Hudson. I'm writing this message as a concerned citizen of District 5. It's come to my attention that the current District 5 Council member, Norma Sanchez, has attempted to unwarranted remove Mr. Cooper, the current P&Z member, from his position. Her actions has caused great concern for me as a resident concerning Mr. Cooper has been doing his job well with no indication that he is not compatible for his position. I asked the City Council, more specifically Ms. Sanchez, to reconsider her recommendation for removal. Please add my letter of concern to the list of concerned citizens for District 5. The next one is Jonathan Farella. He's been a resident of Cibolo for over 2.5 years and recently has observed some concerning action that conflict with desires of the majority, if not all, the Cibolo residents I know. First and foremost, what seems like a concealed agenda to pave the way for high-density housing in the form of apartments or townhouses to be built on the disaster that is 1103. I've not seen anyone provide data that demonstrates the city's infrastructure, sewer, water, electric, academics, trash, medical, and safety supports such an influx of family units. I'm not even sure all of the council members understand what constituents the main components of city infrastructure, because if they did, they probably agreed that the current 1103 nightmare alone would have a detrimental impact to the daily lives of all Cibolo residents. What are we witnessing here? Is the entire problem with our country, current democratic system, on display right here in Cibolo, where citizens don't have the time or the resources to be adequately informed to make decisions on elected officials, and because of this, the future of our community and our country lay in the balance of a groupthink popularity contest. Then to see that as an upstanding member of the P&Z committee who has been fighting for our citizens actually want can be removed as a whim due to compatibility issues is disgusting at all how our system is intended to work. I urge you to hear the voices of our citizens now and provide truthful answers to their concerns. I promise that I will do all I can to make sure their voices are heard in the next election. Sharon Yuma. She understands that, okay, her and her husband they live near Foxbrook section of Cibolo, but they want to support their neighbors by sharing their opposition to the proposed rezoning with multifamily development, essentially apartments in a quiet residential subdivision. They're asking that the rezone not be approved. Having apartments built in front of neighborhoods would seriously affect the residents that live there. We feel that natural increased numbers of cars, people would negatively impact the entire neighborhood. Commercial properties make sense because traffic would not be routed through their neighborhood. Entrances and exits, commercial properties would be at 1103. The land that's directly in front of that subdivision has been zoned for commercial, which was very prudent since the residents benefited from having those businesses nearby. In fact, those that brought land and built there knew it was zoned commercial and most likely built because it was zoned commercial. Other negative impacts on the residents include an intrusion of privacy, which those quiet residents currently enjoy, increased traffic from at a minimum 144 people coming and going at all hours, difficult in selling other lots in the subdivision because most people don't wish to buy a home behind apartment complexes. We wouldn't want to buy there either. Apartments change the whole atmosphere of the neighborhood. Ask yourself, if you would want to buy a home in a subdivision that's behind a 3-story apartment complex, especially with neighbors only short 100 feet from the proposed development site. I'd like to share some personal thoughts on that matter. There's where people live matters. It just does, especially for growing children. As an educator, I have studied the impact of the home and neighborhoods in which a child grows. Where a child grows up is crucial, long-term, very well-being. The residents of Cibolo chose the community as their hometown because of its commitment to preserving its unique history and because of its quiet, small-town feel. the green spaces, the amazing parks and trails, the fishing, the bird sanctuary right there in our own little town, and all our gifts the parents of Cibolo want for their children. And yet, there are enough varied eateries and other businesses to keep everyone content. The proposed apartments will change those wonderful things for the Foxbrook residents. It's not just a subject that anyone likes to discuss, but it also has to be said that studies have shown that there's an often increase in crime in the neighborhoods where apartment complexes have been built. It's not always the case, but it's a possibility should be considered. For those reasons, my husband and I are joining with the residents of Foxbrook to ask not to approve the rezoning. Please do not allow apartments to be built in front of their neighborhoods. The next one is from Ralph Heimlich. Rick, I support Steve Cooper to remain on P&Z. Steve has the best interest of the city, its future growth. I can't see why any council member would want to remove anyone with Steve's background, experience, and honesty. If you want to remove him, then do so with sound reasoning that voters can agree with and not make a political statement. Next one is from Michael Terry. Michael Terry lives at 1832 Green Valley Road. He wants to speak out against the removal of Steve Cooper from the P&Z board. Mr. Cooper is the kind of intelligent, interested, and active citizen every town in our great country needs. He has stood up for what he believes to be the best decision to help our city grow responsibly and do the right by its residents. To be removed by a recent elected official for incompatibility with them may be legal, but is also ludicrous. Mr. Cooper may not have been a supporter of the official, but nothing in his actions during the election was outside of a citizen trying to help elect the person they believe would do the best job. Please do not vote to remove Mr. Cooper. The next one has Heather Wilkinson. Although my husband and I can't attend this meeting, we want to voice our voices to be heard. We can't believe the disgusting misuse of power that is going on at a local level. All involved pushing their personal agendas should be ashamed of themselves. Mr. Steve Cooper has the best interests of our city and should not be removed from planning and zoning. We appreciate your time, and we encourage others to step up for our community. Next one is for Lorena Newell. I want to add my thoughts on Mr. Cooper. He has represented us as the P&Z commissioner for the last year. He has always looked for the best interests of our community. I truly don't understand how looking out for our community could be seen as incompatible. It is incomprehensible to me that someone who has been doing the job they were elected to do in a way that there very clearly represents the best interests of his community could be removed from his position. I support Mr. Cooper and the job he has done on the planning and zoning. Next one is from Nick Sherman. Thank you for reading my comments tonight. I am unsure if I will be able to attend in person. I'd like to express my full support for Mr. Steve Cooper to remain in his position as District 5 representative on the Planning and Zoning Commission. During Mr. Cooper's time on the commission, he has demonstrated great commitment to the position, dedicated countless hours of research and preparation for the tasks required of the position. In attending person reviewing the meeting recordings, I believe Mr. Cooper has made wise and thoughtful commentary and cast correct votes for those items brought before the commission. Mr. Cooper has also shown great character, fortitude in his position, even when faced with attempts to persuade him otherwise. I do not understand the stated reason for his removal of incompatibility, and I look forward to further details of this reasoning to be discussed tonight under 10B. The city has so many important tasks immediately at hand and for the foreseeable future. I cannot understand creating such chaos and division among the citizens by removing a volunteer from the community who is committing their free time to the city to make it the best it can be in the future for all residents. I truly hope my opinion and the opinions of so many other District 5 residents are taken into account when discussing the District 5 appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'd also like to take this time to request that the council continue to support our first responders and prioritize their requests with as much funding as you can squeeze out of the available budget. Lastly, I'd like to thank the city staff for all they do for the residents of Cibolo. Without their efforts, Cibolo would not be what it is today and into the future. The next one is from Scott Newell. I oppose Mr. Cooper being voted off the P&Z Commission. Mr. Cooper has looked out for the best interests of Cibolo and our residents for the last year as Planning and Zoning Commissioner, and long before that in other roles as an active member of this community. There's no valid reason for removing Mr. Cooper. We need better reasons to remove someone from than incompatible, especially since there has not been any time to prove that to be the case. We elect people to office to represent our best interests as citizens, not so that they can appoint their friends to commissions. My family and I believe that this shouldn't even be up for debate. We stand with Mr. Cooper. The next one is from this one doesn't really give a name. It just gives a Madison. That's all it says. Madison is the name. As a 5-year District 5 council resident, I'm writing on behalf of myself and my husband in support of Steve Cooper, who has served on this committee for a long time, is committed, not missing meetings, and not deserving to be caught off guard and tried to be voted off in order to get a friend onto a committee. When that friend was added to the committee because another member stepped down, even though that committee, even though the alternate should have been moved in, that council member was still not satisfied and still is not trying to remove Steve, who has lots of experience and service to our city. We should not have council members try to remove others who disagree with them. Diversity in thought is helpful to the democratic process. To remove Steve would show corruption of the city government to try and get puppets on committees. Please do not vote to remove Steve. I will admit I am not super involved in our city, but I tune in occasionally on meetings, like the most recent one when someone tried to out Steve. And I try to stay up to date as I can in comments and ask questions when I believe strongly in the issue. I recognize Steve's contributions because when I am reading up on issues, I see his name and his actions, like with HEB rezoning. I am disappointed in how new council member is trying to remove someone who is known to be knowledgeable and helpful, while the new council member is not representing the city by being combative instead of working together. I find her to be incompatible, in all honesty. Please listen to my people. Listen to the people of your city who are asking you to vote to keep Steve on the committee. The next one is from Danny Roby. I'd like to address the current situation in support of Steve Cooper. I do not know Mr. Cooper personally, so I am biased by viewing on research I've done on his work as a member of the P&Z Commission. What I've found out is he is a truly dedicated and professional public servant. He listens to all sides and makes the best decisions possible based on the facts, not political leaning. Unlike some other public servants, he is willing to listen, effectively communicate, and do what's best for the community. I'd also like to address the apparent rationale for asking him to leave, asking him to have him removed. I spent 27 years serving this country to allow my fellow citizens to have the freedom to vote for the candidate of their choice. I find saying that Mr. Cooper is incompatible due to the candidate he supported be nothing but short of disrespect to all Americans. I implore you to keep the great citizen in this position. Not only is he the right person, but he's truly the right thing to do. Thank you. Next one is from Mr. Jim Twinter, and he resides at 502 Country Lane. Good evening, Council. I'd like to address item 10B on the agenda this evening, the removal of Steve Cooper from the P&Z Committee. I personally have never met Mr. Cooper, but was present at the council meeting where he was assigned to the P&Z. I have no knowledge of Mr. Cooper not performing his duties as a member of this committee or anything he has done to jeopardize his position. He volunteers for this position, takes time out of his day to attend meetings and handle the requests that are given to the Planning and Zoning Committee. It is a thankless job. I admire anyone volunteering for a thankless job. Here is what I have a problem with. Someone wanting to remove a volunteer that has been doing his job and has no bad reports concerning his behavior. It's not right. He needs to finish out his term that he has agreed to. I believe council members gave up their representative spot in P&Z to this council member so that they could get their representative on a committee. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with this council member not removing the request from, I won't repeat the word that this person used, but remove this request from the agenda after they received a spot on the P&Z from another council member. It shows me what kind of character this council member has. I'm not impressed at all with their behavior or their intellect. If this council member has any decency, they would make a motion to remove this item from the agenda right now. It's very disheartening that this type of crap has to go on in the city. The vote ought to be 6-1 to keep Mr. Cooper on the P&Z committee. I already know the character of one of the votes. Now the other council members will show their character and intellect in how they vote on the agenda item. And many others are watching, every one of you. Mr. Cooper, I'm sorry and ashamed you have to go through this. Have a nice evening. The next one is from Christopher Cash. I'm emailing you to request Steve Cooper remain on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you. The next one is from Tiffany Sherman. Mayor and Council, please cast your vote to retain Mr. Cooper in his current role of Planning and Zoning Commission for District 5. Steve's attentiveness in this position and constant research are exactly what District 5 needs in a Planning and Zoning Commissioner. Next one is from Marcus Mattingly. Removing Mr. Cooper from the P&Z would be ill-advised and imprudent as far as my observation. Mr. Cooper has applied sound judgment and rationale in regarding to interpreting the flume and the CMP. The next one is from Tricia Bell Hartman. My husband and I reside in Cibolo District 5, as well as we own and operate small business in the city of Cibolo. It's imperative that the growth of our city and the quality relationship between our council and outside entities are encouraged, fostered, and preserved. We find it important that our city move forward under quality leadership, and we find it unsettling that a gentleman who has done a great job of serving our city be placed on the agenda for removal without just cause, especially one who has unanimously approved to be appointed by this very council a short year ago. What has changed? Proverbs 27.17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. We feel it's important that we ask that you keep Mr. Cooper in his appointed position at P&Z. Roxanne Cribbs Ringer. As a resident located in District 1 of the City of Cibolo, I'd like my voice to be heard on discussion action item 10B. For background, I've never spoken to Mr. Cooper directly. However, I've seen multiple P&Z meetings online, and I've watched him in person and online in his role as Green Valley SUD. He has always brought a wealth of knowledge, a wealth dose of asking the tough questions, logical approach, consideration for residents of the city, and actively participates in his function on the P&Z committee. His vision for sustainable and smart growth for the city of Cibolo is invaluable. To replace him due to a frivolous personnel disagreement in such a retaliatory manner would be completely unbecoming. In my career, I have found there are weak leaders and there are strong leaders. What delineates the two, you might ask? Well, weak leaders will only surround themselves with yes people, and strong leaders will put aside emotions, egos, to surround themselves with knowledgeable colleagues who are willing to question the status quo for the greater good. I wholeheartedly believe you all are capable of being strong leaders for our city and will vote against removing Mr. Cooper from the P&Z. And the last two are the longest.
Want us to read them?
Yeah. No, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Ray Anna Hawkins, and I am a homeowner in District 5. I moved to Cibolo 10 years ago mainly because of the outstanding schools and quietness of our town. Throughout this time, I've seen tremendous growth in our little town, most of it good. I've also seen actions done by our city council, with once again, most of it being good. However, sometimes motions are made by the council that are just plain wrong. I come here tonight to speak about item 10B on the agenda, the removal of Mr. Steve Cooper from the P&Z board. Mr. Cooper has been on the P&Z board for 1 year, with having one excused absence during this time. He has listened to the citizens of Cibolo numerous times on issues before the board, most recently voting against the apartments by Foxbrook. Mr. Cooper also serves as president of the GVSUD, position obtained after the rest of the GEVC members elected him to serve. The reason on why Mr. Cooper should be removed from the P&Z board borders on ridiculous, incompatibility, and not supporting a candidate during the last election are not valid reasons to remove one of the most effective people serving our town. So I'm putting personal pride aside and to beg and plead with you to use your common sense and realize the removal of Mr. Cooper only serves the personal agenda of a certain new council member. Always remember that anyone can be replaced. Please listen to the outcries from the citizens of Cibolo over this ridiculous motion. I would like to leave you with one final thought. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Thank you. And the last one is from John Frias. My name is John Frias. I reside at 4402 Hakerville Road, Cibolo, Texas. I currently reside in District 2, but he owns property in District 5. I'm disappointed to bring to your attention a matter that echoes my own personal past experiences and now affecting Mr. Cooper. It appears that if one does not conform to a specific personal agenda and comply with certain individuals' directives, they will take steps to remove you from your position. Regardless of your proven dedication and track record of abiding in the best interests of our city's residents, if you don't agree with certain people, they will remove you from your position. Instead of working things out or having constructive dialogue, the ultimate is clear. Obey their commands or face force expulsion. The evidence supporting this theory becomes a reality when Councilman Hicks, Councilman Benson, and Councilman Mahoney confronted Mr. Cooper, pressuring him to step down voluntarily, or else they would act on his behalf. An ethics complaint has been filed against them for their actions, which should warrant their recusal from the vote regarding Mr. Cooper's removal from P&Z. I'm taken back from this is even occurring. I was led to believe that they were men of God based on their social media posts made every Sunday morning. This ethics complaint will cost the city legal fees, all due to the actions of some who did not think things out. Add to the other legal fees one councilman is racking up in other areas. Now it is Ms. Sanchez's second try at removing Mr. Cooper, conveniently after appointing her friend to the P&Z position in District 3. But it is not just her vote that determines who gets on and off, but the whole council who votes. As someone who is now elected, I would expect at least that Mr. Cooper and Ms. Sanchez discuss each other's concerns and issues before it got to that point. I do not believe that this has happened, or was it even an option presented. This leads me to believe that others are influencing Ms. Sanchez's choice, which are demonstrated by the actions against Mr. Cooper. This prompts me to raise another important question. If Mr. Cooper is indeed removed from District 5 P&Z position, who will be selected as his replacement? What friend or puppet is on the sideline waiting to be recommended, appointed, and fast-tracked into seat of District 5 as P&Z Commissioner? Mr. Cooper has consistently exemplified his unwavering commitment to employing logical reasoning, critical analysis, making well-informed votes on agenda items that prioritize the best interests of Cibolo residents. His service on the P&Z board necessitates the accumulation of time, experience, and a comprehensive understanding of what actions should be taken and avoided. It is worth noting that Mr. Cooper received the votes of over 1,000 citizens to be appointed to the GVSU board, a number surpassing that of many current council members. Mr. Cooper strives to fulfill his duty of caring for the community, well-being, and assisting elected officials, even if he did not support them during their campaign periods. As a professional, he has consistently demonstrated his commitment to upholding the oath he took when he was unanimously appointed to his position. The real question at hand, what has changed, or what specifically, or who is exerting influence to bring about this change? It is imperative that you recognize the collective resolve of all of us, the citizens, who will not tolerate a group operating within our city. You have a choice to either act in the best interests of the citizens or face their removal during the next election, or possibly even sooner. I urge you to thoughtfully contemplate the consequences of any further action against Mr. Cooper, as well as all your future decisions. We demand transparency, fairness, to enhance our community well-being. It's crucial that you fulfill the promises you made during your campaign. Do not be manipulated by others pushing you to do their bidding, and make the right choice on behalf of the fairly representing the citizens who are supposed to be caring for you. Thank you. That is it.
Thank you, Peggy. Good job. Okay, Councilwoman Cunningham has, you said 3?
Yeah, so I
Three
didn't.
to read?
I received emails, but they did not indicate that they want them read. They just emailed, but I wanted just to have their names on here. Timothy Kepsel, Brandy Hunninger, Mark Gross, and Johnny Green. I received emails from the 4 of them in support of Mr. Cooper as well. I will. Brandy does? Then I will read it. Sorry about that. So Brandy, Hoenninginger. I don't know how to say that. To the members of the City Council, I support Steve Cooper staying on. If he has been good for the community, why would you support removing him? Why would you allow and support removal of him by shady and inappropriate means? Why would you support people being appointing to positions who do not live in our area? These decisions being made and supported by certain members screams of corruption, shady business dealings, and personal vendettas, and has no business being part of our community. You should be removing toxicity brewing amongst you. You should be supporting what is good for the majority in your community. The community will not stand for corruption on our council. Signed, B. Honinger.
Thank you, Katie. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and skip on up to 10B. Discussion action on the removal of Mr. Cooper from the Planning and Zoning Commission, Councilwoman Sanchez Stevens. Yeah, also, the time to speak out has been concluded with the citizens to be heard, so hopefully everybody had a chance to have their voices heard. So this next time is for council to deliberate and to vote.
I first want to go ahead and give thanks to everyone who submitted emails and letters and who showed up tonight. And thank you for taking that time. Regarding the discussion and action, I would still like to make a motion to remove Mr. Steve Cooper from Planning and Zoning, and would like to hear their second motion. Is there a second motion?
Okay, so now that it's been motioned and seconded, we can ask questions.
Okay, yeah, we have a motion and a second, and Katie, if you want to go ahead and ask some questions of council.
This one's not very long. Did y'all hear me on that one? Okay. So just to preface, we all live here. We're all neighbors. We all love Cibolo in our own way. We all have our own view of what Cibolo should be. We have our own view of what it is and what it's been in the past. We all are allowed to have those opinions. I also want to preface by saying I've talked to Mr. Cooper like once ever. So I have no opinion this way or that way. We're not close personal friends. We aren't bowling partners or anything like that. I want to thank you all for showing up tonight and speaking. It's not usual that we have this many people in the audience. Kind of exciting. We have over 35,000 people in Cibolo. In District 5 alone, there are 7,500 people. 551 voted, that's 7%. Of those 551 who voted, because I'm assuming a majority of you all who are here, that's still a very small percentage. We have a very small, active community in Cibolo. And that has, not just in this instance, but in basically every issue that's ever come before council, that has been a problem. We get a very limited amount of feedback from the community. So I would encourage you, just kind of sidebar, I would encourage you that if there is something on the agenda, do not be afraid to email us. Even if we're not your council person, email us, reach out. If we don't respond, it's not because we're ignoring you necessarily. It's just we get a lot of emails for lots of different reasons. I'm still trying to clean out the spam from my predecessor who signed up for every newsletter ever. But we all represent the whole city, just like your district representatives represent your whole district. When I got elected, 300-something, 400 people voted in District 4. We have over 8,000 people in District 4. I don't represent only the people who voted for me. I know that no one up here is saying, well, I'm only representing those 300, 400 people. That's not how it works. That's how it's looking, though. When we ran, and I'm sure everyone up here did, when you run for office, you prepare. You volunteer, you get involved, you go to the meetings, you learn the agendas. I served on 5 or 6 committees. Mr. Hicks was on like 50. Mr. Hetzel, same. I think Mr. Benson was on a bunch of committees too. You serve on those committees to learn about the city. This stuff is not natural knowledge that you just know. You don't know about plasticity index of soil, and you don't know about that stuff. You just don't, unless that's your job. I understood that even though I had this long history in Cibolo, I grew up here, I know the history, I know the background of what properties were what way back when, I know where the floodwaters go, I know all of that. You still have a learning curve when you get on council. It's completely different. That's why I was hesitant to ever run. I didn't want to run. Really, truly did not. There is a lot to learn when you're on council, and you have the magnifying glass on you, and every decision you make is criticized. It doesn't matter if you're giving everyone $1 million, you're still going to have people criticizing that decision. It comes with the territory. We all have to start somewhere, so not having that background and that knowledge does not mean that someone is not ineligible to be on a committee or on a commission or on council. It means that you have to recognize that you have a learning curve. Coming in scorched earth is not, in my opinion, an effective way to facilitate community. It's not an effective way to lead, and it's definitely not an effective way to be a servant leader, which is what we signed up to do. We're not getting paid for this. Y'all, we're at folding tables. Like, this is not state senate. We're not fancy. We're not getting anything for this. We are here to serve our community. I think that's one of the things that bothers me probably the most about this, is that I'm really struggling to see how these decisions, this specific decision, is being made to serve the community. I'm really, truly not big on using the Bible to justify opinions or behaviors or anything like that. Those who know me personally know that I have a really long, complicated history with religion. I'm a former pastor's kid and everything that comes with that. But Jesus hung out with people he disagreed with. Even as he was dying on the cross, he was talking with people who were completely opposite of everything that he stood for. He forgave those who persecuted him. He still forgave everyone as he's dying there on the cross, the people who were screaming for his murder. We are not Jesus, far from it. But you have to be willing to work with people that you don't agree with. That is the true leader that we should be exemplifying. Worked with those who were not the ones that were in support of him. He even turned some of those people into his inner circle. We have to be willing to work with each other. That was brought up countless times by people on both sides of the issue during Citizens to be Heard. We have to be willing to work together, and that's one of the reasons why I have an agenda item on the agenda as well. When I was elected, and I am, again, far, far from perfect, I had existing people who were appointed, one of them's here, that I wasn't sure liked me. I didn't know. I had never talked to them. Yeah, I know that things that I've done in the past have been polarizing. There's a toll road, there's a whole bunch of stuff that have been polarizing. I'm sure I've said really inappropriate things at times. No matter how hard I try to guard myself, I'm sure that I've done that. When I came on board, I reached out to all of the members that were already appointed to committees and commissions for my district, and I made an attempt to meet with them to discuss what is your What is your vision? What are you working on? What are your goals and plans? What is that committee working toward, and how are you a part of that solution? How can I be a part of that solution? It doesn't mean that that's going to be the magic wand and we're all going to get along kumbaya because we had to sit down at Starbucks, but it opens the door. When I first heard the incompatibility at the last meeting, I was a little shocked, because how can you determine incompatibility at your very first council meeting? Had you taken the time to sit down and build those relationships? I understand having the assumption that someone who didn't support you on social media, someone who didn't support you, is probably not going to support you when you're elected. In my experience, that hasn't always been the case. You do have people who are just going to not like you for whatever reason. But you are going to have people who didn't vote for you, but they still don't want you to fall flat on your face. They still want to represent the city, and they still want you to be successful, because your success is reciprocated in the success of the city. We all want each other to succeed. I know and I acknowledge that our city charter says that committee members serve at the leisure of council. We can appoint and remove whoever we want whenever we want. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I know several people have said that, but we have to understand that we set a precedent. And again, I am not without fault. I have voted to remove people from committees that I did have reasons. But we as council we've gone back and we're trying to fix what we've done with our committee members and not providing training and not providing the tools that they need to be successful. But we don't have to keep repeating the mistakes of the past. I understand, I do understand why this motion is here. I understand the rationale behind it. I'm not making any judgment on that rationale. I get it. I get where you're coming from. It is scary. Once you're on council, you are, again, under a microscope. I have security on my house because of things that have happened because of city issues. I've had nails in my tires. I've had pictures of my kids shared with horrible things written all over them when they were itty-bitty babies, 2 and 3. It can get ugly. I get it, and I get the fear and the desire to put someone that you know in that position. I get it. I'm concerned that we are setting a precedent for the future that so-and-so looked cross-eyed at me and now I'm going to remove them. P&Z takes a lot of time to learn. EDC takes a lot of time to learn. And we need to be the best stewards of our resources, which is our community and our volunteers, and try to put the people who, if we have people there who already have the knowledge, who've already done the research and the work, we need to try to see what we can do to make them compatible. There might be times where those people still aren't compatible. They've done something, they're not remorseful, they continue to do that thing, fine, let's cut them. But after a month without meeting with that person directly to discuss the role on the committee, what they've done, the direction that they see the city going in, sharing your direction that you see it going in, seeing how you can work mutually to have open communication, I'm really, truly struggling to see how this motion is in the best interest of the city. Trying to see if I wrote anything else down. I think that's it. But that's where I'm at, and it's not trying to be ugly to you. I know you're new. I know it's hard. I know it's especially hard when you have a contentious election. I was lucky and ran against someone who was fairly decent, so she's here. And even then, it was stressful. You had 5 people in that election. That is incredibly stressful. And I know I almost had a breakdown. You could talk to people who I called and was crying. It's like, I can't do this. I know it's hard. We want you to be successful. We want you to get the best advice. We want to be able to point you in the right direction, to get the information. I'm not trying to feed you anything. I want you to make decisions that you truly believe are right, based on the best information possible, the best legal responses, the best everything, because you are representing your district as a whole. Again, we get elected by a very, very small percentage. That is not reflective of our district as a whole. It's reflective of people who showed up at an off-season election. My biggest concern, just to summarize, because I know I talked a long time, I'm sorry, is that I want to make sure that the motivation behind this is not out of fear. and that it's out of actual verifiable, this person cannot and will not be able to do this job, period. We've talked about GVSUD, I'm just remembering now, sorry. GVSUD, we did ask about that. Someone read part of the findings from our attorney. You can be in you cannot be in 2 elected positions. So if P&Z was an elected office, you couldn't serve on GVSUD and on P&Z. If P&Z made final decisions on zoning, then he couldn't serve. The legality of it, it's not illegal. I understand the cloudiness because that was a question I had too, and I've asked that of the attorney before. I just really am struggling to support incompatibility when I don't see what measures have been taken to try to find that compatibility, if that makes sense. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Katie.
I'm going to go ahead and add to that too, and kind of being in the hot seat, right? Thank you, Katie, for that introduction. I should have actually first thanked Mr. Cooper for his time on the P&Z. As a candidate running, as a resident, it was of great concern that understanding the lack of water infrastructure that we have down in Cibolo. As a resident, I found it concerning that we had a president of a water board on our planning and zoning that could possibly influence or sway, not in the safety and the protection of our citizens. As a resident, just from the outside looking in, you may criticize that. However, there were promises made of certain things that were going to be changed with the new board regarding the south side of Cibolo, and this was just posted. I think it was on that at-large page, right? Calling that into question. You know, so the thing is like, how are the citizens being protected south side of Cibolo? And if you are on a water board that you are being taken out by developers, is that not a conflict of interest while you are on a planning and zoning board where you're not to, while you are on planning and zoning and you're not supposed to be speaking with developers? So there is a great conflict of interest, of great concern just for the safety of our residents. And understanding and hearing a couple of other residents come up in different city council meetings to say, I pay taxes and yet I don't have water suppression, is really concerning. One of those reasons that I had requested to really support our fire department in getting those ISO maps, getting those water line maps so we can understand what the structure looks like south of Cibolo. So when it comes like to standing up for the residents, I wholeheartedly intended on the concern of the safety. The conflict of interest, I would rather have someone, and I love the fact that he is still serving in community with a GB board. But could we have someone else who doesn't have a conflict of interest, who is not on what we have litigation, right? The city of Cibolo is in litigation with GB SUD. How is that not a conflict of interest? Those were my major, major concerns. And to your point, the other part, as far as it comes to like the campaigning, it wasn't necessarily going up against 4 people, right? It was going up against a group of people. Mr. Joe Potts was great, right? And you might find that laughable, Mrs. Allen, but no, it was a group of people. It was a group of people. When our mayor did not show neutrality and he was in heavy support, how was I supposed to trust going for information to anyone? And understanding that, although I appreciate the community involvement that GVSUD provides, and they were in, you know, I never said vote, I said support. How to go and open those lines of communication. And even as I sit here, Mr. Cooper is looking at me with a death stare. How is that approachable? You know, I am not lying. No, I'm not lying. I also want to make mention, you know, it wasn't welcoming going to the at-large page. I was removed from that at-large page, not by my own personal actions. So there was a lot of things stacked, and the thing is that people in this community, in our district, they were just tired. 51.36% came out and voted because they wanted something different. They were tired of the division. They were tired of the contentiousness. They were tired of being banned on what is supposed to be a community page, and for no reason. and for difference of viewpoints just as well. So to your point, Katie, yes, like those walls have been built very high. And to what Mr. Mathis said not too long ago, is like to a certain point, both sides, right? I didn't even have a side. I was pinned to a side. I was a resident coming out, just wanted to serve, didn't know anybody, wasn't on social media, just opened up social media because I needed to campaign. Then all of a sudden, I had a side. I got pinned to that side. Because just by the same rumors that are said of me that I am in heavy support of apartment complexes, how did that even get started? I don't care for apartment complexes. Had I been given a chance to vote on that issue, I would have said no. Foxburg residents, I support your opposition to apartment complexes. But this is what's happening. Fear is being disseminated. Rumors are being disseminated by fear. And you may think that is funny, Mr. Mayor, but it is. And I just wanted to call that we need to be careful to the rumors and to the heavy speculation, I think it was, that we're under, oh yeah, we are so certain about our speculation that it's fact, when in fact it is not fact, okay? So, and also when people are saying that they're responding to me kindly on messages, no, I have screenshots too, but I have enough character and integrity to not share those because I know not to. I know that is improper, and I know that is unethical. So it goes to show that, to Mr. Mathis's point, that we do need to get over this. We need to really come together, right? And so, so I appreciate you mentioning a couple of things, and I just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah.
I did not expect to clear all of that up because, to your point, that was really tough. And yeah, and if you say anything else, I'll probably bring something else up.
So I do want to just add, so yes, 51% of people voted for you. In my election, almost 80% voted for me. That doesn't mean that I get to disregard everyone else and float around on a high horse. I'm the queen of District 4. My district's bigger than every other district. I knocked on every single door. I sweated probably 50 gallons of sweat walking door to door. That doesn't give us any special privilege. We are citizens, period. We are not anything beyond that. Your campaign was difficult, but I can tell you, I know for sure at least one other person up here who had a more difficult campaign. Several more difficult campaigns. Just because people don't like you or saying things on social media does not dictate, it does not give you the green light for any of us. And this is why I have my agenda item at the executive session, to talk about how we talk to each other, to residents, to other council members, and about staff. We don't do this. This is just, it feels very disrespectful. And I don't think that that's your intent, but that is 100% how it's coming across. I won by 51%. They were mean to me on social media. They didn't let me in their group. I'm not allowed in tons of groups. Social media is not the end of the world. I mean, I might complain about it a little bit, or if someone's saying things about me, I might tell my husband, can you believe what they're saying? And he goes, whatever, and it's done. That is what you sign up for. When you volunteer, you shouldn't be berated and spit on when you go to HEB. But you have to understand that when you come into a public position to serve, no matter the decision you make, it's going to have someone not like it. Every year, we could lower the tax rate. We'll have people show up to complain about it. You always do. You have to learn how to deal with that. You have to learn how to be respectful. You have to learn and I say you as like a community you, not you, just to clarify that, sorry. When you're on council, you have to learn to deal with that. I get where you're coming from. I really do. I really try to understand other people's points. I understand your conflict of interest point. My response to that would be, that was never brought up until tonight. So we had an attempt at removal at the last council meeting without ever telling any of council. I never heard about it. That surprised me. I had no idea anyone was going to be attempted to be removed or the reason. This is the first time I'm ever hearing a reason. Even the responses that residents were getting when they emailed you about it were very vague. It didn't explain anything. And that's your prerogative. You don't have to explain it. it's very hard to support a motion like this when it feels like it's being seat of our pants. Oh, I gotta find a reason now. I tried to remove him. That's what it feels like. We also have an attorney's opinion that says that it's not a conflict legally. I get where you're coming from with that because that was the same concern I had. I've brought it up before. We've had other people who have served on different things that have been on our boards and commissions as well. We've had realtors that we've questioned. We've had, he's always dramatic. We've had other things that have come up as conflicts, and we've talked about it. But we've talked about it with those members. I don't feel like that's happened here, and I feel like this motion is very premature. You could still have these same issues. You could still go meet with him, talk it out, talk with the attorney, have a whole powwow, and get it all out on the table and leave feeling exactly the same way. At that point, the motion to me would have more weight, I guess, merit, that's a good word, merit behind it. But it feels like it's just opinion without actually trying to work out those potential conflicts. That's where I'm coming from.
But if the rest council votes,
Okay, and so, getting back to the actual agenda item, which is about Mr. Cooper, just wanted to give a little bit of background on Mr. Cooper's performance on our planning and zoning department. So I used to be the District 5 councilman. Back in July of 23, after looking for several months to find somebody to step in and fill the shoes of the previous planning and zoning representative for District 5, I landed upon Mr. Cooper, and he has done an exemplary job on P&Z for the past 12 months. He not only does his homework, he gets straight A's on his homework. I mean, he does a fantastic job. He when he spoke earlier about actually going to the properties that are on these P&Z agendas, I find that admirable. I know even on city council, when I see these items come across, I'll, go to Google Maps and look up an address and try to think, okay, well, all right, where is that? What are we trying to do here? But he actually gets in his truck and drives out there and goes, to visit the property and take a look at it with his own eyes. And the work that he's done to help the Popham family, while serving on P&Z. These are just admirable things that the man has done. And he's just been a man of great character and a person that votes on agenda items as the majority of our citizens would want him to. And so to lose Mr. Cooper would be setting back Cibolo by a great magnitude. I'm not necessarily going to say anything disparaging about any of the other P&Z members, but we do have a lot of new folks. And so even though he's only been there 1 year, Mr. Cooper brings a ton of knowledge and experience to that board. And to lose him and to have nothing but, mainly new folks, that would be a major problem for us as city council members, because we take their recommendations and we look at them and then we make a vote. And so we need educated folks. We do have one new person that Katie, I believe, brought on that works in the city of San Antonio. She's fantastic, but there are others that are still a little wet behind the ears, and they're still learning. So at this point, is there any other council members that wanted to speak about this, or can I call a vote?
Yes, I want to.
Go ahead, Mr. Mahoney.
I want to say something.
Yes, sir.
Is this working okay?
They're not meant to amplify. They're meant to suck in the audio and then go to the videotape. So.
Well, I'll be kind of brief to get straight to the point. I'm not here to be popular. I'm not here to be elected again. Maybe I'll run in the future. I don't know. There are 3 reasons people have tried to ascribe to some of us on this motion, and I'm going to say it this way. I have nothing personal against Mr. Cooper. Nice guy. We've never spoken face to face. He did send me an email once to thank me for how I voted in a situation. But I'm in favor of the motion to remove him, and it's not about boosting another council member. It's not about that angle about those apartments. It's not about the ethics complaint that he submitted that had my name on it. I have a different perspective on what happened there, and I was not even present, actually. I was on a device 300 miles away just trying to listen. But suddenly I'm one of the 3 council members that's under some kind of cloud because you heard there's this ethics complaint. It's not because of that, but it's all about this competition or adversarial nature that I feel is out there. It's inevitable between the City of Cibolo and GV Sud. Now, I don't want to magnify that any larger than it has to be, or get in there in the trenches and fight with anybody over wording, but there are lawsuits going on, and there is an adversarial nature at some level that we can't discuss. Now, I was not on council until November when Mr. Cooper was already on the GV Sud board, and I've heard tonight was president. To me, it seems like if I were in his shoes, I would have resigned from one or the other, because I feel there's a conflict of interest there. It hasn't hit us full force yet, but it might be in the future, and I think that alone is reason enough. And it's, again, nothing against Mr. Cooper. To me, it's business. I regret that some of these other things are out there, and we've got to get out from under that cloud and shake hands pretty soon, I hope. But there you go. That's why I'm in favor of the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoney. So, Mr. Garza, can you clearly state if there is a conflict of interest for Mr. Cooper to be on the GVSUD board and also serve in an advisory role on our Planning and Zoning Committee?
Under state law, there is no automatic conflict. He is in 2 positions, one elected and one appointed. Under the Constitution provision, you look as to whether or not there's 2 offices of emolument, which means 2 offices that are being paid. Well, clearly P&Z is not a position to be paid, so you don't look at that constitutional prohibition. So then you look to conflicting loyalties, and that's where you have to look at, are both areas geographically aligned? And they are. In GV Sud and the City of Cibolo do share some areas. However, in one of those positions, he's making recommendations to this body and is not making the final decision. So under state law, there is no conflict of interest. There is no automatic removal. The city does have a lawsuit, and a long-standing lawsuit with GVSUD, which the council has been briefed on numerous occasions. It's being handled by outside counsel who's been handling it from the outset. We can't go into detail about that lawsuit in open session, but there is currently a lawsuit. Does that automatically remove him? The answer is that's a question he would have to answer, whether or not he believes there's a conflict. He's not an attorney, so he can't represent both, and that's not the issue here, is whether or not there's a conflict with regards to the lawsuit. Perception may be an issue, but automatically he does not have to be removed because of the lawsuit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garza, and I'm glad you brought that up about the lawsuit. I know several council members have spoken about the lawsuit, and just to give the audience, either watching the recording online or here in the audience tonight, just wanted everybody to know that this lawsuit dates back many, many years prior to even Councilman Hicks's service here on City Council, and he's been here the longest of any of us. And this lawsuit predates him. And so this lawsuit has been going on for a long time, and we have witnessed change within the GVSUD board over the past few election cycles. And we're finally at a point where we have a really solid board on GVSUD of good, like-minded, reasonable individuals. And so we feel that the city of Cibolo is finally at a point where we can work together with this utility company in good faith and figure out ways that we can work together moving forward in partnership. And so we just put together a subcommittee and consisting of myself and Councilman Roberts and Councilman Hetzel. And so one of the goals of that subcommittee is to work together with 3 members of GVSUD, which include their president, their vice president, and is it you, James? I think, yeah, one other. So 3 and 3 to figure out a way. You know, I'm not saying we're going to be able to settle that lawsuit, you know, in the first meeting or anything like that. I'm not going to, you know, set myself up for failure or promise anything, but, you know, we're trying to take steps towards, you know, mending fences and working together. And that's, you know, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to work together with this utility company and have a great relationship, in contrast to how previous councils had as far as relationships with GVSUD. And so, you know, kicking the president of GVSUD off of P&Z is just not, it's not going to help that effort. Let's just put it that way. So with that said, I'd like to call for a vote. We'll start with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
Nay.
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 Okay, so the recorded vote is 4 ayes and 3 nays. I'd like to thank you for your services, Mr. Cooper. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out. All right, we're going to move on to the next item that requires approval, and that is 10A. Yeah, the consent agenda. Well, I was going to go with the ones that take action and go to executive session. Okay. Yeah, we'll start with the consent agenda. Item 7. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve 7A.
Then I'll second the motion. I wanted to clarify item 7B, which is about the Far West specialty vehicles, the police vehicles. That was mentioned during the Citizens to be Heard. Far West it's a company off of Buy Board. Government agencies have to use Buy Board, that you put in what you need. Responding agencies that are members of Buy Board are able to put in the quotes for the items. We don't know who those agencies are going to be. It just goes through Buy Board, and then we take the lowest bid off of that quote. They respond to it, it comes to the board. So I know that there was a question about potential conflict of a family member being a part of the business that won that. It is through Buy Board. There's really no way to do anything there. Like, there's no way to have anything. I also clarified, because on the quote from Far West, it indicates 2021 Chevy Tahoe as the parts. And when I looked at that, I was concerned that we were buying brand new 2-year-old vehicles. And Mr. Reed and Chief Wells clarified that the parts are 2021 parts because that is the first year of this model. So 2023 is the same body style as 2021, so the parts are default titled 2021 because that's the first year of the body style. So they are not 2021 parts. They are not 2021 Tahoes, which was my major concern. But I just wanted to clarify that because that was a question that I had on those specific vehicles.
Okay. Thank you, Katie. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I'll recuse myself since people want to point fingers.
Okay.
They have no idea what they're talking about.
Okay. All right, so we got 6 ayes and 1 recusal, Peggy. All right, moving on to, we're going to go ahead and move on to the ordinances, Mr. Reed. We're going to come back to the staff update if you don't mind, because we're going to go through with anything that requires an approval and a vote. We're going to go to executive session, then we'll come back and cover everything else. All right, so moving on to 9A, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo reducing the required 15-foot buffer between the off-street parking use area and the abutting public right-of-way to 5 feet for the property located at 508 North Main.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi. Yes, the owners are Patrick Jackson. It's 0.325 acres. Existing zoning is C2. Proposed use is personal services. You had the public hearing at the last meeting. The property is proposed for a non-residential use and is zoned C2 per UDC 17.1J3B when an off-street parking or vehicular use area abuts a public right-of-way except the public alley, a perimeter parking or vehicular use area, landscape area of at least 15 feet in depth shall be maintained between the abutting rights of way and off-street parking or vehicular area. Minimum 3-foot landscaping buffer shrubs are to screen all off-street parking spaces from the public right-of-way. The applicant's request is to reduce the 15-foot landscape buffer between the off-street parking use area and the abutting public right-of-way to 5 feet. The city-owned right-of-way is approximately 22 feet wide and contains a drainage easement. The applicant has a total of 5.35 feet of space between the proposed parking and the public right-of-way. The property is within the Old Town Mixed Use Overlay District, and the properties across Main are zoned SF6, with the remaining properties being zoned C2. Council has some options for action, and included in your staff report are the items that should be considered when considering a variance.
Thank you, Ms. Bertha. All right, do we have any discussion on this item?
I'm the owner of the property that's requesting this. Can I make a clarification?
Sure.
So it's kind of hard to envision, but where the street is at, if you're at the street and you're looking at where the parking lot's going to be, it's going to be almost 27 feet of grass, close to 30 feet of grass. So because the first 22 feet is owned by the city, but it is a drainage, so it's just grass that I can't plant anything or do anything with. So it will still look like it has the full amount, actually look like it has a larger landscape than most places. I just need the 5 feet to be able to get all the parking in there.
Understood. Anybody have any questions for the applicant?
I mean, for the applicant.
So,
Go ahead, TG.
I am a little confused then, because that's.
Hey, please speak into your microphone, TG, because when the
I'm
people
not sure
watch
this
the
thing-
video,
Is this working? Is this working? Hello?
It's better than nothing.
Yeah? Okay. So I'm a little confused. You just said, maybe Ms. Huerta, you can help me out. So I'm trying to look at a Google Earth. I went and drove by, but I think I had the wrong houses I was looking at. So you're suggesting that basically the 5 feet variance, how many feet are between you and the next property?
I'm not after the variance on the sides of the property.
It's in the front?
In the front to the street.
And what's in the front?
So there's a drainage easement that's owned by the city, 22 feet. And then, so I can't do anything with that. It's all just green grass. It's not concrete. It's literally just green grass. And then right past that, I would have to go another 15 feet in, which if I go 15 feet in, I can't even get the driveway to go around to the back of the property. So I just want a 5-foot easement so that I can still have a parking lot and driveway in the front.
The problem we have, a month ago, we had this same thing come up. And I'm going to tell you, if we grant you the variance, I'm going to have somebody that we denied a variance for on 1103 come back and sue us.
So
Well, let me finish, because theirs was basically the same thing. They had a 43 foot though, 43 foot, and it got denied because all they asked for was a variance where they could plant shrubs instead of trees. It's the same situation. I hate that you're in the. It's the same situation. I hate that you're in this situation, but it's the same thing. And they had a 43 foot, and it's because of sewer and drainage and whatnot, and it got denied by this council. And if we were to go and grant you this variance, I can assure you that I can assure you that the other applicant's going to come back and say, "Oh, y'all granted him, but you denied me." Just saying.
So I understand that, but if you look at the consistency of the properties coming down this way, a lot of the businesses right in this area right here, their businesses are 5 feet to the street. I'm not trying to be 5 feet to the street. I got a huge buffer in between there that I'm trying to work with. And so when you look at it visually, it'll look uniform with what you're talking about.
Let me ask you this. Is there a way to, and this is probably more for Ms. Huerta, is there a way, again, I don't know the dimensions of the property, I don't have them in my head right now, but is there a way to not need the variance and still have room for parking by changing what we're looking at in parking rather than landscape? You're shaking your head, not going to happen, huh?
So according to the guys that did the site plan, they're saying that if I don't have that variance, that you can't even get the fire trucks, emergency vehicles, there's not enough driveway. It's going to create a lot of issues. Not only that, but on this side of town, you have a lot of city parking, a lot of parking lots, places for people to be. Down there's people will be parking in the subdivision, at the bowling alley. There's no parking down there. There's nowhere, and it's totally unsafe for people to be walking around, crossing that street.
I live here in downtown, buddy. I'm just saying.
Oh,
I know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. So I'm trying to be able to provide parking that's safe and convenient, and I'm trying to open up a hair salon. It's not high volume, not big business, just something small and simple. And not having that parking will make it very difficult. And my wife and I have poured all our savings into making this happen.
I understand that.
So
Any other questions? Katie, do you have anything? No, you good? Okay.
So what are Ms. Huerta, you in the package put in here in council action number 2, approve the requested landscape with conditions. Give me a condition I can name.
You don't have to approve the amount they're asking for. You can approve less, or you can say, if we give you this, we want that. That's a type of condition.
So the requirement down in the downtown, as it currently sits in the UDC, and have I mentioned I'm not a real fan of that whole thing once or twice, is 15 feet, right?
Correct.
How many parking spaces are being required? Just for my own.
I don't have the numbers off the top of my
Well, yeah, so I guess that's where I was going with the parking, right? It's a hair salon. I read that. I mean,
At the most, like, what, 5 people at a time? And that's on a busy day, right?
No, so there will be the potential. We probably won't fill them all. There'll be the potential for having 6 stations in there.
6.
Now, so if each one has one person working there, then that's 12 cars. So these are small lots. It's not like people are going in and out real fast. But I need to have a place for them to park safely.
Yeah. I mean, I know a woman who owns a barber shop over there by Pat Booker in 1604, and just her, and she's, she struggles to even have 2 customers in there at the same time. I mean, I know that you're saying you got 6 and you envision great business, of course, but just the reality of the situation is it just doesn't work that way. you're probably going to have one or two customers at a time, period, in that building.
May I say, Mr. Mayor, a good friend in Startsville has a place like this and has 2 cars present most of the time, at most.
Yep.
Never seen 6 or 8.
What you got?
So I'm a lot more optimistic than y'all are. So I envision there being a lot more cars, and I'm hopeful there will be a lot more cars in there. I don't envision them going in and out. A lot of times when these ladies go in to get their hair done, when you're getting the color, you're there for a couple hours. So these cars are parked, but they're there.
So just to add to this, I know we've had discussions already, and businesses have brought it up that there's already a parking issue downtown. So if we're already going to say, let's not require as much parking, it's not guaranteed that I'm sure we want you to be successful and be there forever. You may make all your money and decide to sell it and move on. It could become something other than a hair salon that could require more parking. So it's just in our UDC we have specific requirements for the amount of parking spaces.
So I'm exceeding the required amounts,
Okay.
but not by much. It's not a big property. There's not much
Right.
to work with. Now another thing too is you were talking about consistency. The property right next to me has a very similar variance. So if you look on Google Maps, you'll see their parking lot and where it sticks out at the acupuncture place, and mine will almost match that, so it'll look uniform.
For fun, when did that variance happen?
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
I'm thinking of Ron Henry's property where where you go in and you drive around and you can drive around to the back. He does park his vehicles up front sometimes up close to the house, but I'm just telling you, I have a hard time giving you a variance whenever we just denied one a month ago.
I'm a huge fan of consistency, but I think these
I am
issues
too.
are slightly different. I think there's some variables, because you might have denied that one, but at the same time, my neighbor has the exact same thing that I'm requesting. And so is you consistent this way or consistent that way? I'm not sure that I understand.
Well, I get what you're saying there, but understand, I don't think that I was involved in that variance, right? And I was very clear a month ago that I said no on a 40-foot, on planting bushes instead of trees with 40 feet, right? So this is, I'm trying to imagine a way to make this happen, but I don't.
And I will say, just in your defense too, probably the situation where we didn't go for that buffer on 1103, that was a whole site plan. That was a new construction building. All that could have been altered and pulled back and accommodated the fit. And this, he's working with what he has to work with. And we want to save our old town. So this is, and it is, the one you have next to it follows that fabric, and so to speak, so we'll just be continuing. But I think it's two different things, Joe, and I do understand where you're coming from. One was at the rear, one's at the front. And I know you were talking about the John Henry parking around back, and sometimes you need a mud buggy to get back there. There's a lot of cards here on the table. What kind of parking were you going to put in?
So when I met with the city, one of their requests was on everything on the front to be concrete. And so the front section will be concrete, but I want to go with the theme that we have going. I want it to fit into what's happening here. And so once you get to the side of the house and go around to the back, all of that will be the crushed granite, with the exception of the ADA parking back there. Now, some people have brought up concerns about the crushed granite because it'll wash onto the street. The way my property sits, that crushed granite goes.
It'll never make it to the street.
No.
Not that it'll wash on the street, but if you got wet, it's going to get on the tires and you're going to tract it onto the street.
Yeah, it's going to get on my driveway. I'll be sweeping that often, I'm sure.
Any other questions for the applicant? Any other discussion from council?
Did Did you have something else to add? You were over consulting. Is there something we should hear or no?
We were just discussing options. If the options that could be was granting less, maybe if he would only meet the minimum parking requirement, instead of going over.
Well, that's where I was going. I would be,
Yeah.
I know that's kind of a problem, but this is a hair place. I know he wants to be all 6-chair busy, but
It feels like we're kicking the problem down the road.
well,
like
this whole overlay is a problem that we have to be
agreed.
dealt with every
But
month.
this is a way to prevent potential issues in the future, so we don't have to clean it up later. That's
Which is what? What is your best way to clean it
parking.
up?
I mean, parking's going to be an issue. You get parking in there, not enough parking. You're going to have someone come back in, have to rip it out, have to replat it or whatever the heck we have to do to allow for an extension of a parking lot. Like it's a whole thing that we're going to have to revisit later if that becomes a different business. So I think that it is kind of a trade-off here. He's putting in more parking in trade for less of a buffer. At least that's how I see it.
Mr. Reed, do you have a comment?
I was just going to say, if the applicant's open to it, if council wanted to exercise its option of continuing this to a date certain, July 25th, so that staff could have an opportunity to work with the applicant to look at, have we exhausted all options and bring this back? I want council to be aware you have that option on the table. And if you have any ideas or concerns, to express that to staff so that that is considered, should you continue this to a date certain.
Did you want to continue it? I'll leave that up to you, the applicant.
So, it sounds like that's probably my best option right now. So, yeah, go. Just so y'all know, I'm not a big developer. I'm not. This is a dream my wife has had, and we put all our savings to make this happen. Our vision is to match what the city's doing. We want to fit in and join the community, and it's been a struggle. But I would appreciate y'all's help and consideration at evaluating the situation. So if my best option is to kick it down until next month, maybe try and chat with some of you guys in the meantime, then
2 weeks. You'd be coming back on the 25th, if that's okay. If you're around, you gonna be in town?
I believe so.
What's next door to you? You've got the acupuncture. What's the other one right next?
So the other one.
Ron Henry's,
Just
he's
Focus.
realtor,
Yeah.
Just Focus realtor.
So that is considered, and I don't know for sure, but from what I understand, that's a model home. It's not still considered residential, if I'm not mistaken.
He's gone to commercial, yes,
Oh, yes? Okay.
yes. What I was gonna suggest is if we go, instead of the 5 foot, go 10 foot, how many parking spaces is that gonna take away from you up front?
All of them. So because you have to have enough traffic for 2 cars to go through, and if you shred that a little bit, then there's no parking up front. I have tried every which way to manipulate this to make it work. Because I got limited space.
Are you scared that having no parking up front is gonna say they're not open? Is that what you're?
It's a hair salon. I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about having enough space for people to show up. I only have, a handful of parking lots in the back, or parking spots in the back, then if these people are trying to park somewhere, they're either going to try and park on the street, they're going to park at the bowling alley, they're going to park in the neighborhood, they're going to go somewhere, and that's what I don't want. I want to be able to keep it all central.
I understand that. But I hope you understand my situation where,
I do.
if that had not got voted down, I would have been like, well, we granted variance for, shrubs. But
Like
here
I
we
said,
go, we're granting a variance. We're gonna grant you one, but we denied another one. I just, please understand where I'm coming from.
I do. And of course, I'm going to be biased, but I think the situation's slightly different. Not only that, but because of the limited parking, without the parking, it's definitely going to have a direct impact on what I can do with that property. And so that will financially impact me and my family after we've made a big investment in this community.
Do you think we can find an answer to this, Mr. Reed? Or just unanswerable?
I can't answer that. I'm just saying, give us an opportunity to sit down and look at this and bring it back to you. I mean, you have two options: make a motion tonight, vote. I don't know which way it's going to go, or table it for 2 weeks, and we will make sure that we've exhausted all options and
If
bring.
they vote and if the vote no, it's what, 6 months before you can bring it back, or?
No,
There's no
time
limitation
like
on that.
not on a variance.
Please, you'd be having to figure it out anyways.
I can tell you, going in and working with the companies that do the site plans, way more expensive than I ever envisioned. And so every time I have an adjustment going in there, you're talking thousands of dollars. And I have talked to these guys forwards and backwards about trying to rearrange this parking to come up with a solution. And this was the most conservative solution that we could find. And because of the perception of still having all the feet, when people drive by, they're not going to see that, oh, the city owns this and there's that. It's going to look like I have a longer one. Now, it's perception and what it is, two different things. But just when you drive by and look at it, it's going to perceptually fit everything that y'all are after.
Not in my mind, but if perceptionally, you would have had a 43-foot buffer back then. Just saying.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to delay it 2 weeks?
Let's delay it 2 weeks.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to table?
Make a motion to table it until next council meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Okay.
Thank
We'll
you
see
for
you in
your
2 weeks. Thank you. All right. Next up is 9B, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the city of Cibolo, rezoning for property ID 144902 located at Dobie Boulevard and West Borgfield Road from the current zoning of low-density single-family residential SF2 to community retail service C2. Hello.
Hi. Yes, we received a request to postpone this item, to table it. The
You wanted to
applicant
table it?
is here.
Okay. Understood. All right. Motion to table?
Make a motion to table 9D as written.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. So be it. All right, we're going to move on to 10A, discussion action on approving an updated agreement for economic development services between the City of Cibolo and the Cibolo Economic Development Corporation. Kelsey. Hello, Robert.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Come to you tonight. We're trying to get this back in line to match up with the budget cycles. And so I know that this was just approved in January of this year, but we're trying to get it back in line with the fiscal years and match up with the budget cycle. So we come to you tonight to with this updated agreement. There were a couple of minor changes. One Mr. Garza made, and then the big one to explain is the increase to $15,000, and that is because we increased our business improvement grant to $15,000, and so instead of having that come every time to council for approval as well, we're asking to increase our allowance to $15,000 to be able to be able to sign those without having to come to council for approval. So.
Any discussion from council on the renewal of the EDC services agreement?
I have to disagree with coming back to council, spending that money. It's oversight. You understand, right, Robert? It's for us to have oversight of what they're.
For the 15,000?
Yeah, we're going up on it.
Oh. So, will you explain what that's for?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
because we increased our business improvement grant program from 10,000 to 15,000.
Yeah, so
And
council has never approved the business improvement grants. We've never had a say in that. It's always been up to the discretion of the EDC, as it should be,
I
since it's
understand
their
that.
funding. So increasing that amount from 10,000 to 15,000 is just reflective of what their grant is increasing to. If it's the fact that it's blanketed that amount, maybe instead of that, we put a clause in there that says 10,000, but up to 15,000 only for the business development grants, if that's an issue. But I understand the rationale. When you increase the grant, you want to increase that, so we're not getting another dozen things on our agenda that we have to try to approve. So we have very specific roles, and that business development grant is the role of the EDC.
I understand that, Katie. I'm very much aware of that.
I'm gonna make, that clause, is that for any purchase up to 15,000?
Yes, ma'am. The provision does say any CD expense which exceeds 15,000 value will require approval of the city council.
So any purchase over 3,000 though goes through competitive bid, right?
No, ma'am. That's
No?
that's informal process. Formal process begins at 50,000.
Okay.
We don't have competitive bids, but we do follow the city's procurement policy, wherein we do have to still get 3 quotes.
Correct.
For anything
Okay.
over 3,000.
Are there, what are examples of purchases that you would be making between 10 and 15,000, other than the business development grant?
The only one I can think of within the last fiscal year that falls into that range would maybe be some of the marketing campaigns that the EDC did, particularly for the SAMA, the San Antonio Manufacturers Association trade show. The other items that exceeded $10,000 were those that very much exceeded, such as the CEDC strategic plan, which came to council, and then the IH-10 corridor plan, which came to city council.
Okay.
This portion of it.
Yeah.
Not the grants itself.
So would EDC be opposed if we put a clause in there that said the 15,000 is only for the EDC grant, since that's the intent of the increase anyway, and leave the rest of it at 10?
Not at all.
Can we
Yeah.
make a motion with that wording?
Yes, ma'am. You can make a motion to approve with the amendment that that 15,000 be limited to the grant.
Perfect. Then I'd like to make a motion to approve with the condition that the $15,000 limit is limited to the EDC development grants,
Business
and that the
agreement
rest of it
grants.
remains at 10.
I'll second that motion. Ms. Cunningham?
Okay, we're going to do a roll call, starting with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Robert?
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. We're going to jump, since that's all the ones that required approval or action, we're going to jump on over to 11, executive session. The city council will meet in executive session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, section 551.071, consultation with attorney to discuss the following. A, discussion regarding city charter, section 4.04, city attorney, item 2A, B, and C. Councilman Benson. B, discussion on the code of conduct, Councilwoman Cunningham. The time is now 9:38. We are in executive session. To open session from executive session. No action taken.
I would like to give direction, though. Where is that? Give direction for, what was that? Mr. Garza?
The code of conduct?
No, not the code of conduct, the RFP or RFQ?
An RFP.
RFP for 11A. That's just direction.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So we can't make any motions to vote, but we're going to table 10C and 10D. And Councilman Hicks, you have agreed to just cancel E, right? We don't need to discuss it. Okay. All right. On to 10F, discussion from council members that have attended seminars, events, or meetings. Anything for you, Mr. Hicks?
Just my regular meetings, AAMPO, they did some amendments. We weren't supposed to have a meeting in July, but we did for amending the MPO. I went to the Commissioner's Court this morning, nothing special.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anything for you, Hetzel? Okay. Norm? Good, okay. Katie?
Yes, so we had a EDC land swap meeting, and the last meeting that we had, they actually provided a map with the Kelsey, you may know the technical terms, but they had like proposed buildings put on the property, and they showed where the parking spaces would go and how a baseball field would fit there, and a soccer field and a pavilion and all of that. And that really made the whole project seem feasible. I know it's kind of this pie in the sky land swap for the park, but when they drew it out and actually put the equipment there to scale, it made a massive difference. And you could really picture what it will look like. Right now, we're working on the letter of intent, which we should have a final draft, I think, at our next meeting. Yeah, they're working on it. And then, again, trying to work out the funding for the park and what is actually reasonable, what portion the city should be paying, what portion the EDC should be paying, what portion the developer should be paying, how to kind of get it paid and worked out, and then also how grants could potentially factor into that. But right now, just that one map alone, if y'all can see that map, it was really very helpful.
Fantastic. Is there any way you could send that to Peggy and then that map gets sent out to all of us? Okay. Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right. Item 10G, discussion on items the City Council would like to see on future agendas. We're going to bring back 10C and D to the next meeting on the 25th. Any other items that anybody has on the tip of their tongue? If not, we can email them to Peggy. Okay.
Text dot update.
It's already scheduled, right?
Yeah, I reached out to Will Lockett for July 25th.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's a chance he'll be here on the 25th to give us an update?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Just one thing, Mayor. Mr. Reed, just so we're on the same page with Cibolo Valley Drive, can we have somebody for an update on the next meeting? Because I'm just struggling to see how they're going to get all this done in 30 days.
I'd be happy to provide you a more detailed construction schedule.
Okay.
Progress report.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
And it needs to get done before school.
Yeah, absolutely. We owe that to
30
our
days.
citizens, for sure.
You said before the school year.
Oh, yeah. It's
August 13th.
And they still have a whole swath come out the center.
Well, that's they're just gonna take off the top layer.
Yeah, but it's still,
I know.
it's still, you know.
I'm with you there.
For the record, when we started, we said it'd be in September, but I've been told by the contractor and by our inspectors that they're targeting to be done in August. So met with D&D recently, and I have confidence in what they're telling me, but I'll come back with a detailed schedule from the contractor.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
This isn't an agenda item, but if we could maybe have the city post an update on social media about Hakerville Road. I know we got an email about it a few weeks ago saying that it was on target, but if we could get an update on it just out to the public. We've had a lot of people asking.
Yeah,
So-
we'll push one out
Great.
publicly too. Thank you.
Okay. On to H. Mrs. Simmons, do you have anything for us? No? Okay. All right. Item number 13. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Get that here. Sometime before midnight.